Chapter 201, The Will of a King. Zephyr remained silent for a long time. Everything he had heard today. Another world, reviving the dead, extracting devil fruits, hockey beyond imagination, the 5 legends becoming even stronger. It all sounded like a dream. Finally, he let out a bitter laugh. You people have truly become monsters beyond monsters. He looked at Garp and Sengoku. At this point, the world government should be the one afraid of you. Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, you don't need to be jealous. If you want, I can ask my grandson to restore your youth. I'm sure Ren would do at least that much for me. Zephyr smiled. In my arm, Sengoku answered before Garp could speak. That can be repaired as well. There are many zone devil fruits with extraordinary regenerative abilities. Lizard type, salamander type, and several others. We can let you use one to completely restore your body. And afterward, we'll simply extract the devil fruit. You won't even have to remain a devil fruit user. Zephyr's eyes widened once again. That technique really is convenient. Sengoku nodded. It is. But his expression became serious. Taking you to that other world would be extremely difficult. Zephyr frowned. Why? Because when the 6 of us entered that world, we had already prepared ourselves mentally. We went there believing that we might never return. The dangers there are beyond imagination. He paused before continuing. And more importantly, you don't possess Conqueror's Haki. Zephyr remained silent. Without it, reaching the realm of a true king is almost impossible. At best, you would likely remain at the peak Emperor realm. The room fell quiet. Suddenly, Garp slapped his forehead. Hey, Sengoku, you forgot something. Sengoku looked at him. What? The method Ren created for awakening Conqueror's Haki. You already tested it on the 3 admirals. They all failed, so why not give it to Zephyr? He might actually have a chance. And even if he doesn't, he might improve the method further. Zephyr looked stunned. Ren created a technique to awaken Conqueror's Haki. Garp nodded proudly. Yep, he doesn't believe talent should decide everything. So, he started researching Conqueror's Haki. The funny thing is, he doesn't possess the qualities of a born king, so he couldn't rely on instinct. Zephyr looked confused. Then how did he research it? Garp grinned. He used me as the template. I answered every question he asked. He observed my haki, my mentality, my actions, my way of thinking. He kept studying, again and again, trying to define what Conqueror's Haki truly is. Sengoku smiled, and after years of research, he finally reached a conclusion. Zephyr leaned forward. What was it? Garp's expression became unusually serious. Conqueror's Haki isn't born from arrogance. It isn't born from ambition. And it isn't simply inherited. It is the manifestation of an unyielding will, a person whose resolve cannot be broken. No matter how many times they fall, no matter what hardships they face, they continue walking forward, without compromise, without surrender. Sengoku nodded. People born into Conqueror's Haki bloodlines have a higher chance of awakening it. But Ren believes that isn't because of their blood itself. It's because they inherit the same stubbornness, the same indomitable spirit, from generation to generation. So, the true requirement is forging an unyielding will. Zephyr fell into deep thought. Garp continued. Ren already possessed that will. From a very young age, he trained himself beyond reason. He turned every training session into his own personal hell. He never sought comfort. He never looked for shortcuts. He forced himself to keep moving, until his will became impossible to bend. By the time he finished, his spirit had already reached the standard. So, I simply gave him the final push. And that's when his Conqueror's Haki awakened. The room became silent once more. Zephyr slowly clenched his remaining fist. For the first time in years, a new possibility had appeared before him. Perhaps, even someone who had never been born a king, could still forge the will to become one. Chapter 202, Zephyr's Restoration. The conversation came to an end. Sengoku stood up and stretched. Enough talking. It's time to get back to work. He immediately summoned the 3 admirals to Fleet Admiral's office. When Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru arrived, they found an enormous mountain of documents waiting on the desk. Without saying a single word, Sengoku pushed every last stack toward them. These are yours now. The 3 admirals looked at the mountains of paperwork, then at Sengoku, then back at the paperwork. Before any of them could protest, Sengoku had already disappeared. Outside Marine headquarters, Garp suddenly lifted Zephyr onto his shoulder. Zephyr's face darkened. Put me down. Ha ha ha, no need to be shy. Before Zephyr could struggle, both Garp and Sengoku kicked the air simultaneously. Geppo. Boom. Their figures shot into the sky. Using moonwalk continuously, the 2 legends crossed the sea at astonishing speed. Hour later, they arrived at Ren's isolated island. The island remained exactly as before. It was completely surrounded by the colossal skeletons of countless sea kings. Their gigantic white bones formed a natural wall around the island, creating a scene that was both majestic and terrifying. Landing on the shore, Garp immediately shouted, Ren, I need another restoration. Moments later, Ren walked out of his laboratory. He glanced at the 3 visitors before smiling. No problem. As always, go capture 20 Sea Kings first. I'll need their vitality to replenish the energy consumed during the restoration. Garp laughed. I knew you'd say that. Ren's gaze shifted toward Zephyr. His expression became thoughtful. I can restore his youth. But I can't regenerate an entire missing arm directly. Zephyr looked disappointed. Ren calmly explained. The restored body has to match its original structure. If I forcefully regenerate an arm now, it won't perfectly synchronize with the rest of his body. It may function, but it won't truly become one with him. So, have you already prepared a solution? Sengoku nodded. We have. We're planning to let Zephyr temporarily eat a zone-type devil fruit with powerful regenerative abilities. One capable of restoring missing limbs. After his arm has completely regenerated, we'll simply extract the devil fruit. Ren nodded in approval. That will work. But, the order is important. Zephyr looked at him. What do you mean? Restore your arm first. Only afterward should I restore your youth. If I reverse the process, your regenerated arm and rejuvenated body won't synchronize perfectly. It would create small imperfections. Restoring the arm first ensures your entire body returns to the exact same physical state. Sengoku nodded. Understood. I'll contact my sources immediately. If a suitable zone fruit is available, we'll acquire it. He paused before smiling. And if nobody is willing to sell one, I'll simply make another trip to the Holy Land. Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. So you've finally learned from Ren. Sengoku adjusted his glasses without the slightest embarrassment. If negotiation fails, confiscation is always an option. Ren simply smiled. It seemed, after spending enough time around him, even the former fleet admiral had begun to view the Holy Land's treasury as nothing more than a convenient storage room. Chapter 203, The Hunt begins. The moment the plan was finalized, everyone immediately split up. Garp stretched his shoulders before grinning. Then I'll go catch the Sea Kings. Ren nodded. 20 should be enough. They don't have to be the strongest. I only need their vitality. Garp laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. Leave it to me. Boom. With a single step, he disappeared toward the calm belt. Not long afterward, the sea began shaking violently. Massive waves rose into the sky. Roars echoed across the ocean. One after another, gigantic Sea Kings were hurled into the air. Some were over 1,000 meters long. Others resembled ancient dragons. To ordinary people, even one of these creatures was a natural disaster. To Garp, they were merely today's hunting targets. Punch after punch, the Sea Kings fell unconscious. Within minutes, 20 enormous Sea Kings had been dragged back to the island. The giant skeletons surrounding the island gained 20 new additions. Ren glanced at the mountain of unconscious monsters before nodding. That should be enough. He gently placed his hand on the first Sea King. A massive formation beneath the island activated. An immense green life force flowed out of the Sea Kings. Instead of refining it into cultivation, Ren directed every strand of vitality into a special storage formation beneath the island. The formation gradually lit up. Its energy rapidly climbed. Soon, the vitality of all 20 Sea Kings had been completely extracted. Their enormous bodies withered into dry husks before crumbling into dust. The energy is ready. Ren looked toward Sengoku. What about the devil fruit? Sengoku adjusted his glasses. I've already contacted every intelligence network I still have. If someone possesses a suitable regenerative zone, I'll know within a day. And if no information appears, a faint smile appeared on his face. I'll pay the Holy Land another visit. Garp laughed. Ha 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 ha. I almost feel sorry for them now. Ren shook his head. Try negotiating first. If they refuse, then take it. Sengoku nodded calmly. Naturally, Zephyr watched the 3 of them discuss raiding the Holy Land as casually as if they were planning a shopping trip. He could only sigh. Sometimes, I really can't tell whether you're Marines, or the greatest band of thieves in history. Garp proudly puffed out his chest. We're honest Marines. We just happen to borrow things. Without asking, Ren smiled helplessly. Grandpa, that's called stealing. Garp scratched his head before bursting into laughter. Ha 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 ha. So you know it's stealing. Then tell me, why did you empty the Holy Land before? Ren coughed awkwardly. That was different. Sengoku looked at him with an amused smile. Yes, you emptied the Holy Land. If that's the case, shouldn't there already be devil fruits inside your storage? Ren thought for a moment before suddenly freezing. Oh, Garp blinked. What? Ren rubbed his forehead. I never actually checked everything. When I looted the Holy Land, I wasn't interested in ordinary treasures. I was searching for the formations and technology left behind from the Void Century. So I simply collected everything into my folding space, without sorting any of it. Sengoku adjusted his glasses. So, you have no idea what's inside? Ren nodded honestly. Pretty much. I only took out the things I needed. The rest has remained untouched. Garp laughed so hard that tears nearly came out of his eyes. Ha 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 ha. So all this time, we've been worrying about finding a suitable devil fruit, when it might already be lying somewhere inside your folding space. Even Zephyr couldn't help but smile. Sengoku shook his head helplessly. Then, before we raid the Holy Land again, perhaps you should check your own collection first. Ren nodded. Agreed. If there's a regenerative zone inside, it'll save us quite a bit of trouble. With that, the four of them walked toward Ren's laboratory. For the first time since the Holy Land incident, Ren was finally going to sort through everything he had stolen from the world government. Chapter 204, The Treasure of the Holy Land. Inside Ren's laboratory, Ren waved his hand. A spatial ripple spread through the room. The next second, mountains of treasures flooded onto the floor. Gold, jewels, ancient weapons, armor, books, den mushi, countless strange devices, even several massive stone tablets. Within moments, the entire laboratory had become a warehouse. Garp's eyes widened. Did you really empty the Holy Land? Ren scratched his head. I told you, I didn't have time to look carefully. I simply swept everything into my folding space. Sengoku sighed. You weren't exaggerating. I almost feel sorry for the celestial dragons. Zephyr looked around the endless piles. So, everything here came from Mary Geoise. Ren nodded. Almost everything. The ancient formations and Void Century research are already stored elsewhere. The rest, I never sorted. Garp laughed. Ha ha ha. Then let's start digging. Several hours later, the four legends had separated into different piles. Weapons, books, treasures, devil fruits, ancient artifacts. As they sorted through everything, even Sengoku couldn't help becoming shocked. There are over 200 devil fruits here. Ren blinked. That many? Sengoku nodded. Most are ordinary, but there are several ancient zones. A few mythical zones, and many logias. Garp whistled. So the world government really was hoarding them. Ren wasn't surprised. It makes sense. They've ruled the world for 800 years. Collecting devil fruits would naturally become one of their priorities. Zephyr suddenly spoke. Found one. Everyone turned. In his hand was a green devil fruit covered in spiral patterns. Sengoku immediately took an old encyclopedia from one of the bookshelves. After comparing the fruit, his eyes lit up. Found it. He read aloud. Lizard fruit, model, axolotl. A mythical salamander. Ren shook his head. No, it's a normal zone, but axolotls possess extraordinary regenerative abilities. They can naturally regenerate lost limbs. Sengoku smiled. This is exactly what we needed. Zephyr looked at the strange fruit. So, my arm can really be restored. Ren nodded. Yes, once you eat it, your body will instinctively regenerate the missing arm. Afterward, we'll extract the devil fruit. Your body will permanently retain the restored limb. Zephyr silently accepted the fruit. Just as everyone thought they had finished, Ren suddenly froze. His observation haki sensed something familiar. He reached toward another pile. Buried beneath dozens of treasure chests lay an old wooden box. Unlike the others, it had no decorations, no markings, no locks. It looked completely ordinary. Ren slowly opened it. Inside lay several ancient scrolls. Their paper had already turned yellow with age. The moment Sengoku saw them, his pupils contracted. They're written in the language of the Void Century. Ren carefully picked up the first scroll. After reading only a few lines, his expression gradually became serious. Garp noticed immediately. What is it? Ren slowly closed the scroll. This isn't a cultivation technique. Nor is it a weapon blueprint. He looked at the others. It records how the ancient kingdom created artificial devil fruits. Silence filled the laboratory. Even Sengoku's breathing became heavier. Artificial devil fruits, created 800 years ago. If that knowledge still existed, then the secrets hidden by the world government were even greater than they had imagined. Chapter 205, The Truth Behind Artificial Devil Fruits. The laboratory fell silent. Everyone stared at the ancient scrolls in Ren's hands. Garp was the first to break the silence. When did you learn that language? He looked at Ren suspiciously. I remember telling you when you were young, not to waste your time trying to decipher those ancient writings. Ren smiled helplessly. I didn't. I never learned it when I was young. Garp blinked. Then how can you read it? Ren pointed at the scroll. Most of the Void Century formations are recorded in this language. So while studying those formations, I memorized the entire grammatical structure. My devil fruit allowed me to analyze and remember every pattern. Once I understood the grammar, reading the language became no different from reading any other language. Sengoku nodded in understanding. So, you didn't memorize the words. You deciphered the language itself. Exactly. Ren continued reading through the scroll before speaking again. The world government exaggerated the value of artificial devil fruits. They're actually filled with flaws. Zephyr became interested. What kind of flaws? Ren laid the scroll on the table. First, artificial devil fruits can only reproduce zone and paramesha abilities. They're created using the bloodline factors of either an animal or an actual devil fruit user. They imitate the original. They do not truly recreate it. Sengoku quietly listened. Ren continued. Second, you can forget about awakening. The fruit will never awaken. Not because the user lacks talent, but because the fruit itself has no devil. It possesses no will of its own. It is merely an imitation. There is nothing inside it capable of responding to its user. The room became silent. Ren calmly continued, and if awakening is impossible, then liberation is even more impossible. The fruit has already reached its limit from the moment it is created. There is no room left for growth. Garp folded his arms. So, it's just a weaker copy. Ren nodded. Exactly. But the greatest flaw isn't any of those. He turned another page of the scroll. It is bloodline suppression. Zephyr frowned. Bloodline suppression. Ren nodded. Because the artificial fruit is created from the original user's bloodline factor. The moment an artificial user encounters the genuine user, their bloodline is naturally suppressed. The closer the original user's mastery of their devil fruit, the stronger that suppression becomes. In severe cases, the artificial user may not even be able to use their abilities properly. Sengoku's eyes narrowed. So the original user is naturally superior. Always. Ren nodded. The artificial fruit can never surpass its source. It will forever remain an imperfect copy. He closed the scroll. From the very beginning, the ancient kingdom never intended these fruits to replace real devil fruits. They were merely temporary substitutes. They're easier to mass produce. But their drawbacks are simply too great. Garp laughed. Ha ha ha. So after all that research, they only managed to create defective versions. Ren nodded. Compared to genuine devil fruits, they're little more than imitations. He gently placed the scroll back into the wooden box. Still, the methods recorded here are valuable. They contain countless theories about bloodline factors. Even if I never create an artificial devil fruit, the knowledge itself is worth studying. Sengoku smiled faintly. Leave it to you to look at 800-year-old research and immediately think about improving it. Ren only shrugged. Knowledge has no value if it remains buried forever. Chapter 206, A Dangerous Theory. The laboratory became quiet once again. Ren continued reading through the ancient scroll. After several minutes, he slowly closed it. I think I understand what they were trying to accomplish. Sengoku looked at him. What do you mean? Ren leaned against the table. I have a theory. If my assumptions are correct, artificial devil fruits might actually be able to become real devil fruits. The room instantly fell silent. Even Garp stopped smiling. Zephyr frowned. Become real devil fruits. Ren nodded. Artificial devil fruits lack one essential component. The devil, or more accurately, the will residing inside the fruit. That is why they can never awaken. There is simply nothing inside them capable of responding to their user. Sengoku nodded. That matches what the scroll says. Ren continued. But, what if something else could replace that missing will? Everyone looked at him. Ren tapped his own chest. The user's soul. Silence. Ren calmly explained his theory. If an artificial devil fruit user completely masters their fruit, reaching the point just before awakening, then instead of waiting for the fruit's non-existent will to respond, the user would use their own soul as the missing will. They would become the consciousness of the fruit itself. Zephyr's eyes widened. So, the fruit wouldn't awaken. Ren shook his head. No, it would completely skip awakening. It would directly surpass its natural limit. In other words, the user would have to force the fruit beyond its limit through their own will. Only then could they achieve liberation. Sengoku slowly narrowed his eyes. So your theory is, artificial devil fruits can never awaken, but they might still reach liberation if the user's soul replaces the missing devil. Ren nodded. Exactly. The process would be completely different from genuine devil fruits. A real devil fruit follows mastery, awakening, liberation. An artificial devil fruit would have to follow mastery, then directly liberation. It completely skips the awakening stage. The room remained deathly silent. Everyone understood what Ren was implying. If his theory proved correct, the limitations of artificial devil fruits could be broken. Suddenly, a large hand snatched the scroll from Ren. Ren looked up. Garp had already rolled the scroll into a tube. Without hesitation, he tucked it under his arm. No. Ren blinked. What? Garp crossed his arms. I've had enough. You stop thinking. Ren looked confused. But Grandpa, no. Garp shook his head firmly. Every time you start researching something, the entire world ends up with another headache. You've already given us enough problems to deal with. Reviving the dead, extracting devil fruits, Haki core, Conqueror's Haki awakening, liberation, another world, and now you want to turn fake devil fruits into real ones. Garp sighed dramatically. I'm getting old. Give this old man a break. Sengoku couldn't help laughing. For once, I completely agree with him. He adjusted his glasses before pointing toward Zephyr. You have something far more important to focus on. Zephyr. His restoration should come first. The research can wait. Ren looked at the two old men before finally smiling helplessly. Fine, I'll postpone it. Garp immediately grinned. That's more like it. He patted Ren's shoulder. Research later. Restore your Uncle Zephyr first. As for that scroll, I'm keeping it. Ren sighed. You know I'll eventually get it back. Garp laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha. I know, but at least I can buy the world a few more peaceful days. Chapter 207, The Axolotl Fruit. The following morning, Zephyr stood in the center of Ren's laboratory. On the table before him lay the lizard fruit, model, axolotl. Ren looked toward Zephyr. Are you ready? Zephyr nodded without hesitation. I've already lost this arm once. Eating a devil fruit isn't something I'll hesitate over. Without another word, he picked up the fruit. Crunch. The moment he took the first bite, his expression instantly stiffened. Garp couldn't help asking, how is it? Zephyr forced himself to swallow. I've eaten many terrible things during survival training, but this is by far the worst. Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. So devil fruits still taste horrible. Even Ren smiled. A few moments later, the axolotl fruit's power spread throughout Zephyr's body. A warm energy gathered around his missing shoulder. Crack, crack. Bones slowly began extending outward. Then came muscles, blood vessels, nerves. Finally, skin covered everything. The regeneration wasn't fast, but it was visible to the naked eye. Within an hour, a completely new arm had grown. Zephyr slowly opened and closed his fingers. He clenched his fist, then threw a punch into the air. Boom! The air exploded. A smile gradually appeared on his face. It's my real arm. Ren nodded. The axolotl's regenerative instinct perfectly restored what your body originally lost. It isn't an artificial replacement. It's your own flesh. Sengoku smiled. Good. Now there's only one step left. Ren stepped forward. Once I extract the devil fruit, the regeneration ability will disappear. But the arm itself will remain. Zephyr nodded. I'm ready. Ren raised one hand. A transparent sphere of armament hockey appeared around Zephyr. Then, 5 overwhelming waves of Conqueror's hockey filled the laboratory. Garp, Sengoku, Roger's technique recorded within Ren's understanding. Rayleigh's method, Whitebeard's method. Although only Ren was performing the extraction, the technique itself incorporated everything the 5 kings had developed together. Ren compressed the hockey into a tiny point, then gently touched Zephyr's chest. The devil fruit's essence was slowly separated from his body. Unlike the violent extraction performed on Orochi, this time, everything was perfectly controlled. A few minutes later, a familiar fruit appeared in Ren's hand. The lizard fruit, model, axolotl. Zephyr looked at his restored arm. He moved it several more times. Nothing changed. The arm remained perfectly healthy. Ren smiled. The operation was successful. You no longer possess a devil fruit. But your body remembers that the arm belongs to you. Garp suddenly walked over. Good. Now, he grinned. The restoration. Ren nodded. This part will be much simpler. He activated the life force formation beneath the island. The vitality gathered from the 20 Sea Kings surged upward. A pillar of emerald light engulfed Zephyr. His gray hair gradually darkened. The wrinkles on his face disappeared. His aged muscles rapidly regained their peak condition. The scars left by countless years of battle remained. But his vitality returned completely. A few minutes later, the light slowly faded. Standing where the old Zephyr had been, was a man in the absolute prime of his life. His body radiated explosive strength. His missing arm had returned. His posture was straight. His eyes were filled with vigor once more. Zephyr slowly looked at his own hands. Then at his restored arm. He silently clenched both fists. Boom! An invisible shockwave spread through the laboratory. Not because he intended to attack, but simply because his body had recovered to its peak. Garp laughed proudly. Ha 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 ha. Now that's the Zephyr I remember. Sengoku smiled warmly. Welcome back, Black Arm Zephyr. For the first time in decades. Zephyr smiled without a trace of bitterness. I never thought I would have another chance. Chapter 208, The Trial of a King's Will. Ren looked at the rejuvenated Zephyr for a moment before raising his hand. A soft green light surrounded Zephyr's body once more. Zephyr looked at Ren in confusion. What's this? I'm extending your prime. Ren calmly explained. Normally, even after restoring your youth, you would eventually grow old again. I'm using the remaining vitality to lengthen the period your body stays at its peak. It won't make you immortal, but your prime will last far longer than it normally would. The green light gradually faded. Ren nodded. There, it's done. Zephyr clenched his fists once more. His body felt incomparably light. Thank you, Ren. Ren simply smiled. No need. You've looked after Grandpa for many years. I should be the one thanking you. Soon afterward, Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr returned to Marine headquarters. The moment they entered, the 3 admirals happened to look up from the endless mountain of paperwork. An unpleasant feeling immediately rose in their hearts. Kizaru reacted the fastest. Oh my, I suddenly remembered. I have something very important to do. Golden light erupted around his body. He instantly transformed into light and attempted to escape. Garp smiled. Trying to run, a tiny strand of Conqueror's hockey leaked from his body. Only a fraction, yet the surrounding air froze. Miles away, Kizaru's light suddenly dispersed. His devil fruit ability stopped functioning for a brief instant. Wah! Boom! Without the power of the glint fruit, he crashed headfirst into a nearby marine building. A cloud of dust rose into the sky. Silence filled the office. Akainu quietly lowered his head and returned to signing documents. Aokiji slowly picked up another stack of paperwork. Neither of them dared to move. Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. See, running is useless. Moments later, a dusty Kizaru walked back into the office with a defeated expression. I'll continue working. Sengoku adjusted his glasses. We still have some matters to attend to. So continue the paperwork. He looked at the three admirals. You youngsters will be managing the Marines sooner or later. So, treat this as practice. Without waiting for a reply, the three old legends turned and left. The admirals could only watch them disappear. A short while later, Garp, Sengoku, and the rejuvenated Zephyr arrived at one of Marine headquarters' largest training grounds. The area had already been evacuated. Only trusted personnel remained. Sengoku gave several orders. Gather the Marines' best medical experts. Every surgeon, every emergency physician, everyone. Within half an hour, dozens of Marine doctors had assembled outside the training ground. They looked at each other in confusion. Sengoku spoke calmly. You are to remain outside. If we don't call you, do not enter. If we do call, come immediately. The doctors saluted. Yes, Fleet Admiral. After everyone had taken their positions, the enormous training ground was sealed. Only 3 people remained inside. Garp, Sengoku, Zephyr. Garp's usual carefree expression gradually disappeared. He looked directly at Zephyr. Once we begin, there is no turning back. Sengoku nodded. Ren's method isn't ordinary training. It forces you to confront your own will. If your resolve isn't absolute, you'll fail. If your mind collapses, the consequences could be severe. Zephyr took a deep breath. His newly restored body stood perfectly upright. His eyes were calmer than ever before. I've already lived through despair. I've lost my family. I've lost my students. I've lost my arm. I've even lost faith in myself. He slowly clenched both fists. But today, I've been given another chance. His gaze became unwavering. I won't waste it. Garp smiled. Good. He slowly released a trace of his conqueror's haki. Sengoku did the same. The entire training ground instantly became suffocating. The trial, to awaken the haki of a king, was about to begin. Chapter 209, The Birth of an Unyielding Will. The atmosphere inside the training ground became incomparably heavy. Invisible pressure filled every corner. Outside, the Marine doctors looked toward the sealed arena. Even from beyond the walls, they could feel an overwhelming sense of oppression. One doctor swallowed nervously. What exactly is happening inside? Another slowly shook his head. I don't know, but whatever it is, it definitely isn't ordinary training. Inside, Garp and Sengoku stood opposite Zephyr. Neither of them released their full conqueror's haki. Instead, they carefully controlled it. The pressure increased little by little. Like a blacksmith repeatedly striking hot steel, Zephyr remained standing. His breathing gradually became heavier. Sweat rolled down his forehead. His muscles trembled, not because of physical exhaustion, but because his spirit was being crushed. Garp spoke calmly. Don't resist us. Resist yourself. Find the part of your will that refuses to yield. Sengoku added. Forget your strength. Forget your title. Forget everything. Ask yourself only one question. What is the one thing you absolutely refuse to lose? Zephyr slowly closed his eyes. Memories flooded into his mind. His younger days, joining the Marines, training countless recruits, watching them grow into heroes. Then, the day everything was taken from him. His family, his students, their lifeless bodies, the pirates responsible, his own helplessness, the loss of his arm, the moment he abandoned his position as admiral. Years of wandering, years of anger, years of regret. His breathing became increasingly unstable. The pressure around him continued rising. His knees slowly bent. Crack. The ground beneath his feet shattered. Outside, the doctors heard the explosion. Several instinctively stepped forward, but they remembered Sengoku's order. No one entered. Inside the arena, Zephyr's vision blurred. His consciousness felt as though it was sinking into darkness. A voice echoed within his mind. You've already failed. You're old. You're finished. Even if your youth has returned, the era no longer belongs to you. Another voice whispered. You couldn't save them before. What makes you think you can protect anyone now? For a brief moment, Zephyr's body trembled. Then, he remembered Ren's words. This isn't the end. Asterisk. It's only the beginning. Asterisk. He remembered Garp. He remembered Sengoku. He remembered every student who had once proudly called him teacher. Slowly, Zephyr opened his eyes. No. His voice was quiet, but firm. I couldn't save everyone. I accept that. I carry those regrets. But, I won't let them define me. He took a single step forward. Boom. The invisible pressure pressing against him cracked. Another step. Boom. The ground beneath his feet exploded. Garp's eyes lit up. That's it. Don't reject your past. Use it. Sengoku nodded. Your regrets, your losses, they are part of your will. Zephyr raised his head. His eyes no longer contained hesitation. Only determination. I protected the seas once. I'll protect them again. Not because someone ordered me to. Not because I'm a Marine. But because I chose this path. No one will make me abandon it again. The instant those words left his mouth, something changed. The air trembled. Crack! A bolt of black lightning burst from Zephyr's body. Then another. And another. The entire training ground shook violently. Outside, every marine doctor suddenly froze. An overwhelming pressure washed over them. Several collapsed unconscious on the spot. Others struggled just to remain standing. The sky above Marine headquarters darkened. Black and crimson lightning danced across the clouds. Inside the arena, Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. It awakened. Sengoku smiled. Congratulations, Zephyr. You've taken your first step into the realm of kings. Zephyr slowly looked at the black lightning dancing around his fist. His expression remained calm. Unlike Garp's overwhelming domination, or Roger's wild ambition, his conqueror's haki felt steady, resolute, like an unbreakable fortress. Garp nodded with satisfaction. Just as Ren predicted, the moment an unyielding will is forged, the door to conqueror's haki opens. For the first time in marine history, a man who had never been born with the qualities of a king had awakened conqueror's haki, through the strength of his own will alone. Chapter 210, Another King is Born. Back inside Marine headquarters, the three admirals were buried beneath mountains of paperwork. Stamp, sign, stamp, sign. The office was unusually quiet. Kizaru let out a long sigh. This is far more exhausting than fighting pirates. Akainu didn't even raise his head. Stop complaining. Aokiji lazily flipped another page. I'd rather fight 10 emperors than finish these documents. Suddenly, boom, a terrifying pressure descended upon the entire headquarters. The three admirals froze simultaneously. Akainu immediately stood up. Conqueror's haki. Aokiji's sleepy eyes instantly became serious. This pressure, it's coming from the training grounds. Before they could react, another overwhelming wave erupted. This one belonged to Garp. The building trembled. Several windows shattered. Then, a second wave appeared. Sengoku's conqueror's haki spread throughout the headquarters. Although both of them were carefully controlling their haki, the pressure was still overwhelming. Even experienced vice admirals outside instinctively held their breath. Kizaru slowly stood up. Those two old men, they're doing it again. Just then, a third pressure exploded into existence. At first, it was unstable, like a newborn flame. Then, it rapidly grew stronger. Black lightning burst into the sky above the training grounds. The air itself seemed to tremble. Akainu's eyes narrowed. A new conqueror's haki. Aokiji looked toward the window. Someone awakened. The three admirals silently watched the black lightning dance across the clouds. Kizaru finally broke the silence. Is the world really going to end? He rubbed his forehead. People always say, conqueror's haki is a 1 in a million talent. A gift only a handful of people possess. He looked toward the distant training ground. But recently, one king after another keeps appearing. It feels as though conqueror's haki has become common. Akainu remained silent. Only he knew. A few weeks earlier, Sengoku had personally handed the three of them a training method developed by Ren. According to Sengoku, it was a method that might awaken conqueror's haki. The three admirals had all attempted it. All three had failed. Since then, they had believed the method was merely an interesting theory. But now, someone had actually succeeded. Aokiji slowly sighed. So, the method really works. Akainu crossed his arms. It isn't the method, it's the person. The method only opens the door. Whether someone can walk through it depends entirely on their own will. Kizaru nodded thoughtfully. So the one inside must have finally reached that level. None of them knew. The person awakening conqueror's haki was Zephyr. Nor did they know about Ren's restoration, the extraction of devil fruits, the other world, or Roger's resurrection. To them, today was simply another impossible day. Another day when the old generation quietly reminded the entire world why they had once ruled the seas. And inside the sealed training ground, a newly born king was taking his first steps into a realm that very few would ever reach. Chapter 211, Training Beyond Devil Fruits. Not long after Zephyr awakened his conqueror's haki, orders spread throughout Marine headquarters. The three admirals are to report immediately. Within minutes, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru arrived at the training grounds. Before any of them could ask what was happening, Garp grabbed Zephyr and threw him over his shoulder. Zephyr sighed helplessly. Again, Garp laughed. Ha 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 ha, you're lighter than before. At the same time, Sengoku picked up both Akainu and Aokiji as if they weighed nothing. The two admirals exchanged speechless looks. Only Kizaru remained standing. Sengoku glanced at him. You can keep up by yourself. Kizaru smiled bitterly. Why'd I suddenly have a bad feeling? Boom. The next instant, Garp and Sengoku kicked the air. The force of their moonwalk shattered the ground beneath them. Like two cannonballs, they shot toward the red line. Kizaru immediately transformed into light and chased after them. Even so, he barely managed to keep them within sight. Scary. They're not even using their full speed. Several minutes later, Everyone landed atop an empty section of the Red Line. The area stretched for dozens of kilometers. Perfect for an all-out battle. Garp gently placed Zephyr on the ground. Then he looked toward the three admirals. "You three, fight him." The admirals blinked. Fight former Admiral Zephyr. Garp nodded. "That's right. Zephyr has only recently awakened Conqueror's Haki. He needs pressure. He needs worthy opponents. Only through real combat can he quickly learn advanced Conqueror's Haki." Zephyr smiled faintly. "It seems I'll have to trouble you three." Akainu stepped forward. "If that's an order, I have no objections." Garp's expression suddenly became serious. "But before we begin, I have one condition." He looked at the three admirals. "For this battle, forget your devil fruits." The three were stunned. "What?" Sengoku continued. "Garp and I will release a small amount of our Conqueror's Haki. It won't affect your bodies, but it will continuously suppress your devil fruits. They won't disappear completely, but relying on them will become extremely difficult." The three admirals finally understood. This wasn't simply a spar. It was training. Garp crossed his arms. "You three rely on your devil fruits far too much. Whenever you fight, your first instinct is to use your fruit. Your Haki always comes second." He pointed at Akainu. "You think your magma is invincible. Then at Aokiji, you rely on freezing everything. Finally," he pointed toward Kizaru, "and you're even worse. If your fruit didn't make you fast, you wouldn't move half as much." Kizaru awkwardly scratched his cheek. "That hurts." Garp ignored him. "Because of that habit, none of you awakened Conqueror's Haki. And if you continue like this, you can also forget about liberating your devil fruits." The three admirals quietly listened. Sengoku spoke calmly. "A devil fruit is a tool. It should never become your crutch. If you always depend on the fruit, you'll never surpass it. How can you go beyond something when you've never learned to fight without it?" His voice became firm. "Whitebeard and I already understand this. We're both halfway toward liberating our fruits. But you three, you've only awakened yours, and you've mistaken awakening for the end of the road." Silence filled the Red Line. Garp slowly released a strand of Conqueror's Haki. Sengoku did the same. The invisible pressure spread across the battlefield. Immediately, the admirals felt their devil fruits become sluggish. Akainu tried producing magma. Only a small amount appeared before dispersing. Aokiji's ice formed far more slowly than usual. Kizaru attempted to become light. His body flickered, but failed to completely transform. He stared blankly at his own hand. "My fruit. It's being suppressed." Garp grinned. "Good. Now, fight with everything else you've got. Your bodies, your Haki, your combat instincts. Show me what remains. When your greatest advantage is taken away." The three admirals slowly assumed their battle stances. Across from them, Zephyr quietly raised his fists. Fresh black lightning flickered around his body. His newly awakened Conqueror's Haki, though still immature, already carried the unwavering resolve of a king. Garp smiled with satisfaction. "This will be your first lesson. And perhaps, the first step for the three of you, to finally stop relying on your devil fruits." Chapter 212, A Lesson Without Devil Fruits. The winds atop the Red Line howled. On one side, stood Zephyr, freshly restored, freshly awakened. His Conqueror's Haki still flickered around him in unstable strands of black lightning. Opposite him, stood the three admirals, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru. Normally, the combined strength of the three admirals would overwhelm almost anyone. But today, their greatest weapons had been sealed. Garp and Sengoku quietly stood several kilometers away. Their Conqueror's Haki continuously blanketed the battlefield. Whenever the admirals tried relying on their devil fruits, the abilities were immediately suppressed. Garp folded his arms. "Begin." Boom. Akainu rushed forward first. Without magma, his movements became noticeably different. His punches carried powerful armament Haki, but they lacked the overwhelming pressure they usually possessed. Zephyr calmly sidestepped. Bang! A single elbow struck Akainu's ribs. Akainu slid backward several dozen meters. Before he regained his balance, Aokiji appeared beside Zephyr. He abandoned his usual freezing techniques. Instead, he relied entirely on hand-to-hand combat. His observation Haki allowed him to predict Zephyr's movements. The two exchanged dozens of blows in only a few seconds. Boom, boom, boom. The ground shattered beneath their feet. Kizaru finally joined the battle. Without complete control over the glint-glint fruit, he could no longer fight at the speed of light. Instead, he depended on Rokushiki and observation Haki. For the first time in years, the three admirals fought, using their own bodies. Several exchanges later, Zephyr gradually gained the upper hand. His movements became smoother. The black lightning surrounding his fists appeared more frequently. Although he still couldn't consciously control advanced Conqueror's Haki, his instincts were beginning to respond. Boom! A single punch forced all three admirals backward. Garp nodded with satisfaction. Good. Keep pushing him. The three admirals gathered together. Akainu frowned. This feels strange. Aokiji nodded. I've relied on my fruit for so many years. My body isn't keeping up with my instincts. Kizaru smiled bitterly. I always thought my speed came from training. But now, I realize, I've been relying on my fruit all along. Sengoku's voice echoed across the battlefield. Now you understand, the fruit should amplify your strength. It should never replace it. The battle resumed. This time, the admirals stopped trying to activate their devil fruits. Instead, they focused entirely on haki. Observation, armament, martial skill. Immediately, their coordination improved. Zephyr smiled. That's better. Boom. The four figures collided once more. The shockwaves echoed throughout the red line. Hours passed. Every person was covered in dust. The red line had been reduced to a field of enormous craters. The four combatants were breathing heavily. Garp suddenly spoke. Stop. Everyone immediately halted. He walked toward the exhausted admirals. You noticed it yourselves. The three remained silent. You weren't weaker because your fruits were sealed. You became weaker because you had forgotten how to fight without them. He looked directly at Akainu. Your haki should command your magma. Not the other way around. He turned toward Aokiji. Ice is only your weapon. It isn't your foundation. Finally, he looked at Kizaru. And speed isn't measured by your fruit. It's measured by how quickly your body and mind move together. Kizaru slowly lowered his head. I understand. Sengoku smiled. This training won't end today. From now on, every week, you three will spar without using your devil fruits. When your bodies become as strong as your abilities. When your haki surpasses your dependence. Only then, will you truly begin walking toward liberation. The three admirals nodded. For the first time since becoming admirals, they realized that awakening was never the destination. It was merely the beginning of the path beyond devil fruits. Nearby, Zephyr quietly clenched his fist. Tiny strands of black lightning wrapped around it. Compared to this morning, his control had already improved. Seeing this, Garp grinned. Ha 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 ha. Looks like we found the perfect training partners. The three admirals exchanged helpless smiles. It seemed their paperwork wasn't the only thing that had just become part of their daily routine. Chapter 213, preparing for another expedition. A month passed in the blink of an eye. During that month, everyone had improved tremendously. Zephyr had completely stabilized his newly awakened conqueror's haki. The three admirals had gradually adapted to fighting without relying entirely on their devil fruits. Garp, Sengoku, Whitebeard, Roger, Rayleigh, and Ren had all reached the limit of what they could achieve through ordinary training. It was time to return to the other world. Time to level up once again. Before leaving, Sengoku made one final decision. At Marine headquarters, he stood before the assembled officers. From today onward, Admiral Kizaru will serve as the acting fleet admiral until my return. The Marines were shocked. Although Sengoku called it acting fleet admiral, everyone understood. It meant he trusted Kizaru to oversee the entire organization while he was away. Kizaru scratched his head helplessly. This suddenly became troublesome. Sengoku smiled. Better paperwork than fighting me. The officers burst into laughter. Meanwhile, Garp had already disappeared. Without informing anyone, he headed straight for Wano. On Onigashima, Kaido was drinking as usual. Suddenly, boom, the sky split apart. Before Kaido could even stand, a fist descended from above. Bang, Kaido's face slammed into the ground. What? Before he could finish speaking, another punch landed, then another, then another. The entire island trembled. Kaido never had the chance to transform. He never had the chance to swing his kanabo. He never even had the chance to fight back. For nearly an hour, Garp simply beat him from one side of Onigashima to the other. Every bone in Kaido's body was shattered. His scales, his muscles, even his indestructible body, could not withstand Garp's monstrous haki. Finally, Garp released a strand of Conqueror's haki directly into Kaido's body. This will keep you honest. The injuries won't heal for at least a month. Kaido lay motionless. Even speaking had become a luxury. Unfortunately for Big Mom, she happened to be visiting Wano that day. Seeing Kaido's condition, she immediately attacked. The result was no different. Boom, boom, boom. Every strike landed before she could react. Her iron balloon-like body, which had terrified the seas for decades, was reduced to a bloodied mess. Every bone in her body broke. Just like Kaido, Garp left behind his conqueror's haki. Her regeneration, and even the recovery granted by her devil fruit, were completely suppressed. For at least a month, neither emperor would be able to move freely. Garp dusted off his hands. There, the sea should be much quieter now. Then, he left as casually as he had arrived. Elsewhere, Whitebeard paid a visit to Pirate Island. Blackbeard had barely received the report. Before Whitebeard was already standing in front of him. Father. Blackbeard forced out an awkward smile. Whitebeard's expression remained cold. You've caused enough trouble. The next moment, the island shook violently. Not from the power of the tremor fruit, but from Whitebeard's haki. Blackbeard never even managed to activate the dark fruit. Every attempt was crushed by Whitebeard's overwhelming conqueror's haki. The beating was completely one-sided. By the time it ended, every bone in Blackbeard's body had been broken. Whitebeard also left behind a portion of his conqueror's hockey. Rest for a month. You've earned it. Then he departed. At the same time, Roger and Rayleigh found Shanks. Roger folded his arms. Don't go causing trouble while we're away. Shanks blinked. Quote. What? Rayleigh smiled. If Garp and Sengoku return and discover you've thrown the sea into chaos. Roger grinned. They'll personally break every bone in your body. Rayleigh added with a chuckle. And they'll probably do same with Mihawk too. Shanks immediately raised both hands. I understand. I'll behave. The remaining 7 warlords, powerful pirate captains, and every major figure capable of disrupting the balance of the seas, received either direct visits or indirect warnings. The message was simple. Stay quiet, cause trouble, and deal with the consequences later. Even the Holy Land noticed the unusual movements. Several members of the God's Knights personally visited Marine headquarters. Unlike before, their attitude was unexpectedly respectful. One of them asked, Fleet Admiral, what exactly is happening? Why did Vice Admiral Garp suddenly beat Kaido and Big Mom half to death? Sengoku calmly sipped his tea. We're going treasure hunting. The God's Knights looked at each other in confusion. Sengoku continued, we'll be away for a while. So, we don't want the seas falling into turmoil while we're gone. The easiest solution was to send the biggest troublemakers to the hospital. Silence filled the room. Sengoku placed his teacup on the table. Since you're already here, take a message back. He looked directly at them. Tell the 5 elders, until we return, no celestial dragon is to leave the Holy Land. That order also applies to the God's Knights, the 5 elders themselves, and the one hidden upon the empty throne. The atmosphere instantly became heavy. Sengoku's expression remained calm. But if we return and discover unnecessary trouble, he smiled faintly, we'll settle the matter personally. No one doubted those words. The God's Knights respectfully nodded. We understand. Without another word, they left. Meanwhile, Roger and Rayleigh had traveled to Elbaf. Their destination, the home of an old friend, Skopper Gabon. The moment they met, Roger burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I heard you actually married a giant. Gabon rolled his eyes. I did. Roger looked toward the enormous house nearby. And you even have a son. Gabon smiled proudly. I do. After reminiscing for a while, Roger suddenly became serious. I have a question. We're about to embark on another extraordinary journey. I'd like you to come with us. Gabon was surprised. Roger continued. I already asked Ren. He agreed immediately. He said, if you're still in your prime, you're unquestionably a king-level fighter. Far away, Ren smiled after hearing Roger's report through Denmushi. Before this, he simply hadn't known Gabon's true strength. That was the only reason Gabon had never crossed his mind. Now, with another king joining their expedition, their journey into the other world would become even more extraordinary. Chapter 214, Returning to the Other World. 2 days later, everyone gathered on Ren's island once again. Standing there were Ren, Garp, Sengoku, Whitebeard, Roger, Rayleigh, Zephyr, and the newest member, Skopper Gabon. The atmosphere was noticeably livelier than before. Roger threw an arm around Gabon's shoulders. Ha ha ha, it's been decades since we traveled together. Gabon smiled. I never thought I'd have another adventure at this age. Ren walked over and looked at Gabon carefully. So, let's fix that first. Gabon raised an eyebrow. Fix what? Ren smiled. Your age. The others stepped back. Ren placed a hand on Gabon's shoulder. A familiar golden formation appeared beneath his feet. Unlike ordinary healing, this was the same life restoration technique used on Whitebeard, Roger, Sengoku, and Zephyr. The vitality extracted from the Sea King surged into Gabon's body. His white hair gradually darkened. The wrinkles on his face disappeared. His aged muscles rapidly regained their former power. His slightly bent back straightened. His breathing became deeper. His haki, which had become dormant with age, awakened once again. A few minutes later, the light disappeared. Standing there was no longer the elderly Skopper Gabon. Instead, it was the Skopper Gabon of Roger's era. A man in the absolute prime of his life. Roger's eyes widened. Ha ha ha, now that's the Gabon I remember. Rayleigh smiled. You haven't changed at all. Gabon looked down at his own hands. He slowly clenched his fists. Boom! An invisible shockwave spread in every direction. His body overflowed with strength. A smile slowly appeared on his face. I'm back. Whitebeard laughed loudly. Gurararara. Looks like another old monster has returned. Even Garp nodded in approval. Not bad. You've still got plenty of fight left. Gabon looked toward Ren. Thank you. Ren simply smiled. We're teammates now. No need to be so formal. After everyone had finished catching up, Ren walked toward the center of the island. There, an enormous formation had already been engraved into the ground. Compared to the first time, it was much more complete, much more stable. The surrounding space quietly began to distort. Everyone immediately became serious. Roger's smile disappeared. Even Garp folded his arms. This wasn't the One Piece world. The dangers waiting on the other side were completely unknown. Ren took a deep breath. I've made several improvements. The passage is much more stable than before. It should allow all of us to cross safely. He looked around at everyone. This time, we're stronger. And we have one more king fighting alongside us. Roger grinned. Then what are we waiting for? Whitebeard rested Murakumogiri on his shoulder. Gurararara. Let's see what kind of monsters are waiting for us. Sengoku nodded. Our goal remains the same. Level up, train, and search for opportunities to grow stronger. Everyone agreed. Ren slowly raised his hand. The formation beneath their feet began shining with dazzling golden light. Runes from another world filled the air. The space in front of them started twisting violently. A crack appeared in reality itself. It rapidly expanded. Soon, a massive spatial gate stood before everyone. Unlike the unstable crack from their first journey, this portal remained perfectly calm. Its edges no longer trembled. It was as stable as an ordinary doorway. Ren looked toward his companions. Everyone, welcome to our second expedition. Without the slightest hesitation, Roger stepped forward first. Ha ha ha, I'm not letting anyone beat me to the treasure. The others laughed, one after another. Garp, Whitebeard, Sengoku, Rayleigh, Zephyr, Skopper Gaban, and finally, Ren himself, walked through the portal. The moment the last person disappeared, the spatial gate silently closed behind them. Ren's island once again returned to complete silence. Only the gentle sound of the waves remained. As the strongest group in the world began their second journey into another world. Chapter 215, The Awakening of Skopper Gaban. The moment everyone stepped through the portal, the familiar aura of the other world greeted them once again. Dense mana filled the air. Towering forests stretched endlessly into the distance. Countless powerful monsters roamed the land. Gaban looked around in amazement. So, this is the world you were talking about. Roger laughed. Ha ha ha, it's much more interesting than our own world. Ren nodded. But before anything else, he looked toward Gaban. You need to awaken. Gaban looked confused. Awaken. Ren took out the crystal they had brought from this world. The transparent awakening crystal still shone brightly. It still has 4 uses remaining. Without awakening, you won't receive the world's recognition. You won't have a status panel. You won't gain experience. You won't level up. So, this is the first step. Gaban nodded. I understand. Ren carefully placed the awakening crystal on the ground. Ancient runes appeared across its surface. A pillar of white light slowly descended. Place your hand on it. Gaban stepped forward without hesitation. The moment his palm touched the crystal, the runes erupted with dazzling brilliance. Boom! A powerful wave of mana spread throughout the area. Unlike ordinary awakenings, the crystal shook violently. Even Ren's eyes narrowed. As expected, a king-class individual produces a much greater reaction. Golden light wrapped around Gaban's body. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Finally, the light slowly faded. A translucent blue screen appeared before Gaban. Status. Name. Skopper Gaban. Race. Human. Age. 69. Level. 1. Class. Warrior of the Sea. Titles. Mountain Eater * Left Hand of the Pirate King * Monster of the Old Era * King Class Conqueror World Explorer. Attributes. Strength. 970. Agility. 980. Constitution. 994. Vitality. 990. Spirit. 991. Mana. 0. Luck. 63. Silence filled the area. Even Garp raised an eyebrow. Huh, so he's almost as ridiculous as we were. Whitebeard laughed. Gurararara. His constitution is even higher than Roger's was. Roger crossed his arms. TCH. So close to perfect. Rayleigh smiled. Only Gaban would complain after getting numbers like these. Gaban stared at the screen in disbelief. So this is my status. He slowly clenched his fist. Although his level was only 1, he could clearly feel the world's blessing flowing through his body. Ren nodded. From now on, every monster you defeat will grant experience. You'll become stronger with every level. Gaban looked at the status once more. So this world really allows limitless growth. Ren smiled. Exactly. And now, you can finally grow alongside us. The awakening crystal gradually dimmed. Ren carefully stored it away. 3 uses remain. No one knows if we'll ever find another one. So we have to use the remaining awakenings carefully. Everyone nodded. They understood the value of the crystal better than anyone. It wasn't simply an item. It was the key that allowed even kings from another world to become recognized by this world's system. Roger rested Ace on his shoulder and grinned. Enough talking. It's been a whole month since we last hunted monsters. Whitebeard smiled. Gurararara. I've been looking forward to this. Garp cracked his knuckles. Then let's see how much stronger we can become this time. Hearing those words, Gaban smiled excitedly. For the first time in decades, the old monster felt the thrill of exploring an unknown world once again. Chapter 216, Searching for the Perfect Battlefield. After Gaban completed his awakening, the group did not rush into battle. Everyone knew their fights were unlike those of this world. Ren spread out a map they had obtained during their previous expedition. We need a new hunting ground. A larger one. Roger nodded. The last battlefield was already too small. Whitebeard laughed. Gurararara. One swing almost reached your battlefield. Garp grinned. And you nearly hit me. The 7 of them couldn't simply pick a random location. If they fought at full strength, the aftermath alone would destroy everything within hundreds of kilometers. Sengoku stepped forward. Rayleigh. The same plan as last time. Rayleigh nodded. We'll gather information, look for monster hordes, or territories occupied by multiple elite bosses. Ren added. And somewhere isolated. No cities, no adventurers, no kingdoms. Our battles cannot be interrupted. The 2 immediately disappeared. Their observation hockey and experience made them the best scouts. Within moments, their figures vanished into the horizon. The remaining 5 found a nearby mountain and waited. Roger lay on a rock with his hands behind his head. I almost forgot how troublesome leveling is. Gabon smiled. In this world, finding monsters is harder than defeating them. Ren nodded. Exactly. The strongest monsters usually rule vast territories. Ordinary adventurers avoid those places. They need an entire party of people around the same level, just to challenge one elite boss. Whitebeard rested Murakumogiri on his shoulder. But for us, one boss, one person. Everyone nodded. That was the greatest difference between them and the natives of this world. A normal level 150 elite boss required dozens of experts. Every member had to coordinate perfectly. One mistake, and the entire team would be wiped out. But for them, each person fought an elite boss alone. Not because they were arrogant, but because they simply had no choice. If 2 of them fought together, the battlefield itself would become too chaotic. Garp laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, if Roger joins my fight, we'll probably kill every monster within 200 kilometers. Roger snorted. You're one to talk. Your punches fly farther than my sword slashes. Whitebeard chuckled. Gurararara. And if I use my fruit, the entire mountain range disappears. Even Ren smiled. Their attacks had already surpassed the scale of ordinary battles. Every clash between kings covered hundreds of kilometers. The monsters weren't always killed directly. Sometimes, the shockwaves alone would flatten forests and split mountains. That was why finding the right battlefield was more important than finding strong monsters. A place large enough, remote enough, and dangerous enough. Only there could all 7 of them fight without restraint, without worrying about interfering with one another, or accidentally wiping out an entire kingdom. Several hours later, 2 figures appeared in the sky. Rayleigh and Sengoku returned. Both wore faint smiles. Roger immediately stood up. You found one. Rayleigh nodded. We found something even better. Sengoku unfolded a rough map. About 800 kilometers north, there's a region known as the Valley of Behemoths. The area stretches for over 1,000 kilometers. It has almost no intelligent races. No cities. No adventurer guilds. He looked around at everyone. And according to the information we gathered, the valley contains thousands of monsters above level 120. Roger's eyes lit up. And the elite bosses. Rayleigh smiled. More than enough. There are over 20 confirmed elite boss territories. And, he paused for effect, we also heard rumors of a legendary boss sleeping at the center of the valley. For a brief moment, complete silence filled the group. Then, Garp burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Now that's more like it. Whitebeard grinned. Gurararara. It seems, we've found our hunting ground. Ren looked toward the distant north. His eyes shone with anticipation. This time, the Valley of Behemoths would become the stage for 7 kings to unleash their full power. Chapter 217, The First Hunt. After nearly 2 hours of travel, the 7 finally arrived at the Valley of Behemoths. The moment they stepped inside, they sensed countless powerful auras. The weakest monsters in the area were already above level 120. Towering beasts roamed the mountains. Massive birds circled the skies. The earth occasionally trembled as giant creatures walked through the forests. Roger couldn't help but grin. Now this looks like a proper hunting ground. However, none of them attacked immediately. Instead, Garp suddenly disappeared. Boom. A moment later, a level 126 monster was sent flying through the forest. Before it even landed, Sengoku knocked out another. Whitebeard casually swung Murakumogiri. The pressure alone sent 3 level 128 monsters crashing into the ground unconscious. Within minutes, hundreds of monsters between level 120 and level 130 had been knocked unconscious. Not one of them was killed. Gabon looked confused. Why aren't we finishing them? Ren smiled. Because we're hungry. Everyone immediately understood. Ever since reaching their current level, their bodies had changed. The ordinary food of the One Piece world could no longer provide enough nutrition. Even sea kings, which had once been excellent sources of nourishment, were now barely enough to maintain their bodies. Only these high-level monsters contained enough life energy to satisfy them. Roger laughed. Ha ha ha, I've been craving this for an entire month. Whitebeard nodded. Gurararara. The meat from this world is far better. Soon, enormous bonfires appeared throughout the valley. The 7 kings sat together, enjoying a feast made from high-level monster meat. The rich life energy contained within the meat spread throughout their bodies. Even Gabon's eyes widened. I can actually feel my body absorbing the nutrients. Ren nodded. This is why we came back. Our original world can no longer supply enough nutrition for our bodies. So every expedition starts with a feast. Everyone laughed. After eating, Ren turned toward Gabon. It's your turn. Around them, hundreds of unconscious monsters still lay scattered across the valley. Gabon understood immediately. He drew his axes. So I finished them. Ren nodded. Exactly. You're still only level 1. The experience from these monsters will rapidly increase your level. And once you approach level 100, the attributes gained from leveling will bring your physical strength much closer to ours. Roger smiled. It won't completely erase the gap, but you'll be able to keep up with us. Without another word, Gabon began moving through the battlefield. One strike, one monster, then another, and another. Blue notifications rapidly appeared before him. Level up, level up, level up. The messages appeared so quickly. They almost merged into a single stream. His aura steadily grew stronger. His body continuously adapted to the world's blessing. Meanwhile, the other 6 quietly watched. No one interfered. This experience belonged entirely to Gabon. Nearly an hour later, the last monster fell. Gabon stood still, feeling the changes within his body. A smile slowly spread across his face. This feeling, it's incredible. Ren nodded. The system rewards growth immediately. But, he looked deeper into the Valley of Behemoths. This is only the beginning. He pointed toward the distant mountains. The monsters we just dealt with, they're nothing more than small fry. We'll use them to gain a few more levels and warm up our bodies. After that, we'll head deeper into the valley. Roger grinned. Straight to the elite bosses. Whitebeard laughed. Gurararara. And finally, the legendary boss. Garp cracked his knuckles. Ha ha ha. I hope that legendary boss survives long enough to entertain us. The 7 kings smiled. For them, the true hunt was only just beginning. Chapter 218, 7 Battlefields. After another hour of hunting, the group finally reached the heart of the Valley of Behemoths. Before them, an endless plain stretched toward the horizon. Towering cliffs surrounded the valley from every direction. It was the perfect battlefield. The 7 looked at one another before silently nodding. Then, each chose a different cliff. Every battlefield was separated by hundreds of kilometers. Only such an enormous distance could prevent their battles from interfering with one another. Below each cliff, the ground was already covered with monsters. Level 120, level 125, level 130, level 135, even countless level 140 monsters. They filled the valley like swarms of locusts. At a glance, there were tens of thousands of them. Their roars echoed endlessly across the valley. Yet, not a single one dared attack. Every monster instinctively sensed that the 7 figures standing atop the cliffs were far more terrifying than they were. No one moved immediately. Each quietly adjusted themselves to their peak condition. This was not merely a hunt. It was training. It was an opportunity to push themselves beyond their current limits. Ren slowly drew his black blade. The moment it left its sheath, an invisible pressure swept across the surrounding mountains. Dark crimson lightning danced around the blade. Advanced armament haki flowed across its edge like liquid. His conqueror's haki erupted without restraint. The sky above him darkened. Several hundred kilometers away, Roger slowly rested Ace upon his shoulder. His permanently black blade reflected no light. Black and crimson lightning continuously exploded around him. His ruo flowed naturally into the sword. His conqueror's haki surged like an endless ocean. Every step he took caused the earth beneath him to crack. Roger smiled. Come, let's see if this world has anything worth cutting. On another cliff, Rayleigh quietly closed his eyes. The moment he opened them, his observation haki spread across hundreds of kilometers. Nothing escaped his perception. His black blade slowly left its sheath. Advanced armament and conqueror's haki intertwined around it. The surrounding air itself began trembling. Whitebeard stood silently. Murakumogiri had also become a permanent black blade. It radiated an overwhelming aura. Ruo continuously flowed across the naginata. Black lightning wrapped around the blade. At the same time, circular rings of vibrating quake power surrounded its edge. Space itself distorted wherever the weapon pointed. Whitebeard smiled. Gurararara. Let's shake this world once more. Not far away, Scopper Gabon held his twin axes. Although they had not yet become black blades, both weapons were already coated in advanced armament haki. Black lightning danced around their edges. Hiscarp Conqueror's haki flowed naturally into both axes. His fighting spirit climbed steadily. This would be his first true battle since returning to his prime. Garp slowly clenched his fists. Crack, crack, his knuckles echoed like thunder. An immense amount of ruo gathered around both fists. Then, his conqueror's haki fused with it. The sheer friction caused his fists to glow a deep crimson, like red-hot iron fresh from a furnace. The surrounding air distorted from the terrifying heat and pressure. Garp grinned. Ha ha ha, I've been waiting for this. Finally, Sengoku took a deep breath. Golden light erupted around his body. Without hesitation, he entered his half-liberated form. The familiar round belly had completely disappeared. In its place, perfectly sculpted 8-pack abdominal muscles. His once radiant golden body had become darker, more imposing. Black demonic markings spread across every inch of his body. The white and gold ribbons, symbols of his mythical zone awakening, had transformed. Now, they burned in crimson and black. Instead of floating around his shoulders, they gathered into a massive demonic halo behind his head. His palms slowly turned crimson and black, like the claws of an ancient deity. An overwhelming aura radiated from him. Even the surrounding space seemed unable to bear his presence. The 7 kings stood atop 7 different cliffs, each surrounded by countless monsters, each preparing to unleash their full strength. The Valley of Behemoths, which had remained peaceful for centuries, was about to witness 7 battles that would shake heaven and earth. Chapter 219, The 7 Kings Descend. For a brief moment, the entire Valley of Behemoths became silent. Hundreds of thousands of monsters looked toward the 7 cliffs. Then, Garp moved first. Ha ha ha, he disappeared from the top of the cliff. His fist, already covered in blazing ruo and black-red conqueror's haki, pulled back. A swirling sphere of dark energy rapidly formed around his fist. The surrounding space distorted violently. Then, he slammed it into the ground. Galaxy impact. Boom. A world-shaking explosion erupted. A gigantic shockwave spread in every direction. Mountains collapsed. The earth sank hundreds of meters. Everything within dozens of kilometers was instantly obliterated. Thousands of level 120 to level 140 monsters disappeared before they even realized what had happened. The shockwave continued racing across the battlefield, destroying everything in its path. Several hundred kilometers away, Roger laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, divine departure. His black blade, Ace, swung downward toward the earth. A gigantic black and crimson sword wave erupted. The slash tore open the ground itself. Everything before it, monsters, forests, mountains, was split apart. A canyon stretching for dozens of kilometers appeared instantly. Countless monsters vanished beneath Roger's single strike. On another battlefield, Whitebeard raised Murakumogiri high above his head. The circular rings of quake power around the blade expanded. Black lightning exploded wildly. Then, he leapt into the sky. Gurararara. With all his strength, he brought Murakumogiri crashing downward. Boom. The blade never actually touched the ground. The vibrating force reached first. The earth shattered. Gigantic cracks spread in every direction. Entire mountains rose into the sky before exploding into dust. Every monster caught within the vibrating shockwaves was crushed into nothingness. Far away, Sengoku slowly raised one hand. His crimson and black palm radiated terrifying pressure. The demonic halo behind him rotated slowly. Then, he thrust his palm downward. Demonic Buddha palm, a colossal palm print, thousands of meters across, descended from the heavens. It struck the earth with overwhelming force. Boom. The entire battlefield collapsed. A gigantic handprint remained engraved into the valley. Every monster beneath it was instantly erased. Nearby, Gabon grinned. So this is how you hunt. He raised both giant axes. Ruo flowed endlessly across their edges. Black lightning exploded around the blades. Then, he swung both axes directly into the ground. Boom. Twin crescent shockwaves erupted. The earth split apart. A huge X-shaped canyon appeared before him. Thousands of monsters were cut apart in a single attack. Gabon couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha, I haven't fought like this in decades. Ren remained standing atop his cliff. He didn't move. He simply raised his black blade. His eyes quietly locked onto the endless sea of monsters below. Ruo, Conqueror's Haki, Sword Intent, all three merged into one. Then, he swung. A horizontal slash descended from the cliff. The black sword wave became larger and larger as it traveled. By the time it reached the ground, it stretched across the entire battlefield. Boom. The slash carved through everything before it. The valley was neatly divided into 2 halves. The monsters along its path were erased so completely that not even blood remained. Only an endlessly deep canyon marked the path of Ren's blade. Rayleigh chose a completely different approach. The instant the battle began, he vanished. No explosions, no earth-shattering attacks, only a silver streak of light. It flashed through the battlefield. Again, and again, and again. Everywhere the silver light passed, monster after monster collapsed, heads separated from bodies. Gigantic beasts were sliced into dozens of pieces before they even noticed they had been attacked. His movements were so fast that the monsters only saw a silver line running across the battlefield. Like a master chef cutting butter, Rayleigh's blade encountered no resistance whatsoever. Within seconds, thousands of monsters had fallen. 7 different battlefields, 7 completely different fighting styles. Yet each one displayed overwhelming power. The adventurers of this world needed entire parties of experts to challenge a single elite boss. But these 7 kings were treating tens of thousands of high-level monsters as nothing more than a warm-up. Chapter 220, The Valley of Destruction. The 7 battlefields exploded into complete chaos. None of them bothered conserving stamina. None of them held back. This was merely the beginning. Boom, boom, boom. Across the Valley of Behemoths, one terrifying attack after another erupted. From high above, it looked less like a battlefield, and more like 7 natural disasters occurring simultaneously. Garp laughed wildly. Ha ha ha. Another swirling sphere of dark energy formed around his fist. Galaxy impact. Boom. A gigantic shockwave spread across the earth. Mountains were flattened. Entire monster hordes disappeared. Without even pausing, Garp jumped into the air. Another galaxy impact. Then another. Each punch shook the entire valley. To him, throwing galaxy impacts around was no different than a child throwing stones into a lake. Roger was no different. His black blade flashed repeatedly. Divine departure. Boom. A black and red slash tore across the battlefield. Before the dust had even settled, another divine departure followed. Then another. One after another. Gigantic sword waves continuously crossed the valley. Every slash carved out a new canyon. Roger laughed louder with every swing. Ha ha ha. This is refreshing. Whitebeard stood like an unmovable mountain. Murakumogiri continuously descended. Every swing carried Ruo, Conqueror's Haki, and circular quake power. Boom. The earth exploded. Boom. Another mountain collapsed. Boom. A forest vanished. Each strike felt like the end of the world. Sengoku's battlefield was equally terrifying. His demonic halo slowly rotated behind him. One enormous palm after another descended from the sky. Each palm print engraved itself into the valley. Thousands of monsters vanished beneath every strike. His half-liberated form radiated overwhelming pressure. The battlefield around him had already become a landscape filled with gigantic handprints. Gabon laughed heartily. So this is how monsters should be hunted. His twin axes repeatedly struck the ground. Boom, boom, boom. Twin shockwaves crossed endlessly. The earth split apart again and again. Although he had just joined the team, his attacks already rivaled the others in scale. Ren remained atop his cliff. He never stepped forward. Instead, his sword continuously swung. Every slash traveled hundreds of kilometers before landing. Horizontal slashes, vertical slashes, cross-shaped slashes. The black sword waves crisscrossed his battlefield. Every attack erased thousands of monsters. To Ren, the entire valley had become one enormous target. Rayleigh alone fought differently. His battlefield looked strangely peaceful. There were no explosions, no collapsing mountains, no earth-shattering attacks, only a silver streak. It flashed through the monster horde again and again. Every flash meant thousands of monsters had already died. His swordsmanship was so precise that many monsters remained standing for several seconds before silently falling into perfectly cut pieces. The entire Valley of Behemoths had become a scene of absolute destruction. Long-range attacks flew everywhere. Gigantic sword waves, colossal shockwaves, massive palm prints, earthquakes, explosions. From a distance, it looked almost absurd, as though 7 children were casually throwing balls at one another. Except, those balls were attacks capable of leveling mountains. Every collision between techniques created hurricanes powerful enough to uproot ancient forests. The sky constantly split apart. The earth never stopped shaking. Clouds of dust rose thousands of meters into the air. Even the monsters that had survived countless years in the valley finally understood fear. Many tried to flee, but, no matter where they ran, another terrifying attack would descend from the heavens. For the first time in the history of the Valley of Behemoths, the monsters had become the hunted. Chapter 221, the elite bosses become weapons. The endless slaughter finally drew the attention of the true rulers of the Valley of Behemoths. One after another, terrifying auras erupted from every direction. Roar! A giant earth dragon over 500 meters long burst out of the mountains. A flaming giant covered in molten armor emerged from a volcano. A 3-headed thunder wolf descended from the sky. An enormous crystal titan awakened from beneath the earth. One after another, level 145 elite bosses entered the battlefield. Ordinary adventurers would have despaired. A single level 145 elite boss required an entire team of experts at the same level. One mistake, and the entire party would be annihilated. But that was the standard of this world. The 7 kings were monsters from another world. The earth dragon charged toward Garp. It opened its jaws. Before it could unleash its breath, Garp grabbed its tail. Ha ha ha, so you're finally here. The dragon struggled desperately, but Garp simply swung it overhead. Like a child swinging a toy. Boom, the dragon's body smashed into another elite boss. The collision sent both monsters flying across the battlefield. Without stopping, Garp swung it again, and again. Each impact flattened entire monster hordes. Thousands of lower-level monsters were crushed beneath the bodies of the elite bosses. Ha ha ha, so much easier than punching. Roger's battlefield wasn't much different. A giant thunder wolf lunged toward him. Roger smiled. Instead of drawing his sword, he grabbed the wolf by one leg. Let's see how sturdy you are. He spun once, twice, 3 times. Then, He hurled the massive beast straight through another elite boss. Boom. Both monsters crashed through multiple mountains. Roger laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, you're much more useful like this. Whitebeard caught a crystal titan by its shoulder. The titan roared furiously. Whitebeard simply smiled. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Bang! Another elite boss flew away. Bang! A mountain collapsed. Bang! Hundreds of monsters beneath them disappeared instantly. The Crystal Titan had become Murakumogiri's replacement. On another battlefield, Sengoku's giant crimson and black palm caught a molten giant. Instead of killing it, he hurled it downward. Boom! The molten giant landed directly in the center of a level 130 monster horde. The explosion wiped out thousands instantly. Sengoku calmly nodded. Efficient. Gaban's eyes shone. So that's how you do it. He grabbed a gigantic horned beast. With a roar, he swung it like one of his axes. Every impact sent another elite boss flying. The battlefield quickly turned into complete chaos. Ren finally left his cliff. A single slash severed the legs of a massive elite boss. Before it could fall, he caught its gigantic body. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he launched it across the battlefield. The flying monster became a living projectile. It smashed through dozens of lower-level monsters before crashing into another elite boss. Ren nodded slightly. Not bad. Only Rayleigh remained elegant. He appeared beside an elite boss. One precise slash. Its tendons were cut. The monster instantly lost all balance. Rayleigh calmly kicked it. The gigantic beast flew hundreds of meters, crashing directly into another monster horde. He smiled. I suppose this saves a little stamina. If anyone from this world witnessed the scene, they would question everything they knew. The terrifying level 145 elite bosses, feared by kingdoms, capable of destroying entire armies, were not being treated as worthy opponents. Instead, the Seven Kings were using them as hammers, as clubs, as projectiles, to smash apart other elite bosses and erase endless hordes of lower-level monsters. The rulers of the Valley of Behemoths had unknowingly become nothing more than living weapons in the hands of even greater monsters. Chapter 222, Whitebeard vs. the Stone Minotaur. The battle continued without pause. The level 145 elite bosses had already reached their limits. Some had broken bones, others had lost limbs, the rest could barely stand. Against the Seven Kings, even elite bosses were nothing more than training tools. Then, a new pressure descended upon the valley. Boom! The earth trembled violently. A gigantic figure slowly emerged from the deepest part of the valley. Over 30 meters tall, with the body of a muscular giant, and the head of a bull. In its hands, it held a colossal battle axe carved from black stone. Every step it took caused mountains to shake. Above its head floated a familiar blue panel. Level 155 elite boss. Stone Minotaur. The moment it appeared, the surrounding mountains began to tremble. Countless boulders floated into the sky. The very earth obeyed its command. Its target was Whitebeard. The Stone Minotaur lowered its axe. Then, it charged. Boom, boom, boom. Every step shattered the ground. Whitebeard looked at the charging giant. A wide grin spread across his face. Gurararara, you chose the right opponent. He rested Murakumogiri upon his shoulder. You control stone. Come, let me shake your stones apart today. Without another word, Whitebeard shot forward. The Stone Minotaur did the same. The distance between them disappeared instantly. Clang, Murakumogiri, now a permanent black blade coated in Ruo, Conqueror's Haki, and vibrating quake power, collided directly with the giant stone axe. The impact exploded across the battlefield. Boom! Kilometers of ground collapsed instantly. Gigantic cracks spread in every direction. Nearby mountains shattered from the shockwave alone. The Minotaur suddenly released one hand from its axe. Its fist instantly transformed into solid black stone. Without warning, it punched Whitebeard square in the chest. Boom! Whitebeard shot backward, flying several kilometers before digging Murakumogiri into the earth to stop himself. Dust filled the sky. Then, Whitebeard slowly stood. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Instead of anger, his face held only excitement. Gurararara. Good, good. Your fists, they're even harder than Garp's. His laughter echoed throughout the valley. The thrill of battle completely consumed him. Without another word, he charged again. The Minotaur roared and swung its axe downward. Clang! The two weapons collided once more. Before the Minotaur could repeat the same tactic, Whitebeard moved first. His left fist, coated with Ruo, Conqueror's Haki, and concentrated quake power, shot upward. Guuraa. Boom! The uppercut landed directly beneath the Minotaur's jaw. At the last second, the monster transformed its entire head and neck into solid stone. Even so, it was blasted several kilometers into the air. The giant body smashed through multiple mountain peaks before finally stopping. The Minotaur let out an earth-shaking roar. Ruaa. With a wave of its hand, the surrounding mountains exploded. Hundreds, no, thousands of massive stone meteors rose into the sky. Like a rain of destruction, They hurtled toward Whitebeard from every direction. Whitebeard merely smiled. Gurararara. So that's your trick. He slammed his fist into the earth. Boom. His quake power spread deep beneath the continent. The continental plates shifted ever so slightly. The entire battlefield trembled. Then, the ground around Whitebeard rose into the sky. Towering walls of earth emerged one after another. Like an enormous mountain fortress. They intercepted the descending stone meteors. Boom, boom, boom. Each meteor shattered against the rising walls. Fragments of stone rained across the battlefield. Standing at the center of the destruction, Whitebeard rested Murakumogiri upon his shoulder. His eyes burned with excitement. Across from him, the stone minotaur slowly climbed out of the shattered mountains. Its stone armor had cracked, but its battle spirit had only grown stronger. Whitebeard laughed loudly. Gurararara. Excellent. Now this is a battle worthy of my full strength. Chapter 223, The Skeleton Centaur and the Giant Centipede. As the level 155 elite bosses awakened, the atmosphere throughout the Valley of Behemoths changed completely. These monsters were fundamentally different from the level 145 elite bosses. They possessed intelligence, combat instincts, and unique abilities. Each one ruled an enormous territory. On Roger's battlefield, the ground suddenly turned deathly cold. Click, click, click. The sound of bones echoed across the valley. A gigantic figure slowly emerged from the mist. It possessed the upper body of a human skeleton. Its lower body was that of a skeletal warhorse. Dark blue soul flames burned within its empty eye sockets. In each hand, it held an enormous black sword. A pair of sword masters. One body. 4 blazing skeletal eyes stared directly at Roger. A blue status window floated above it. Level 155 elite boss. Skeleton Centaur Knight. Roger blinked. Then, he turned toward the distant battlefields and shouted, "Guys, I think I found a relative of Nujiro." For a brief moment, the entire valley fell silent. Then, Garp's booming laughter echoed across the battlefield. "Ha ha ha ha, don't let the old horse hear you." Even Whitebeard burst into laughter. Gurararara. It really does look like him. Ren couldn't help but smile. If Nujiro heard that, he'd probably chase you across the entire Grand Line. Roger simply laughed louder. "Ha ha ha, then I'll ask him if they're family." The skeleton centaur tilted its skull slightly. Although it didn't understand a single word, it instinctively knew. The human before it was mocking it. Boom. It kicked off the ground. Its speed exploded instantly. Twin swords crossed through the air. 2 gigantic blue sword waves shot toward Roger. Roger's grin widened. Now that's more like it. Ace slowly rose. Black lightning exploded around the blade. Meanwhile, on Rayleigh's battlefield, the earth suddenly split apart. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The mountains collapsed one after another. A colossal shadow moved beneath the ground. Then, the earth exploded. A gigantic centipede burst into the open. Its body stretched for dozens of kilometers. Its countless legs moved in perfect synchronization. Its black shell reflected light like polished metal. Every segment of its body was covered in razor-sharp spikes. Its countless crimson eyes locked onto Rayleigh. A status window appeared. Level 155 elite boss. World-devouring centipede. Without warning, it vanished. Boom. A sonic explosion echoed across the battlefield. Rayleigh's pupils shrank slightly. So fast, the giant creature, despite its enormous size, moved with astonishing speed. It instantly appeared behind him. Its gigantic jaws snapped shut. Crack. Rayleigh disappeared. The jaws crushed only an afterimage. A silver flash appeared hundreds of meters away. Rayleigh looked back. A smile slowly spread across his face. Interesting. For something that large, your speed is astonishing. The world-devouring centipede screeched. Its dozens of kilometers long body twisted through the valley like a living mountain range. Every movement flattened forests and shattered cliffs. Rayleigh slowly raised his black blade. His observation hockey expanded to its absolute limit. Against such overwhelming speed, there was only one answer. Become even faster. Silver light burst across the battlefield once again. This time, 2 blurs, one silver, one black, chased each other across the valley at speeds invisible to the naked eye. The duel between the Dark King's blade and the world's fastest centipede had officially begun. Chapter 224, Monsters Meet Greater Monsters. As more level 155 elite bosses awakened, 2 monstrous auras spread across the valley. Even the surrounding elite bosses instinctively retreated. These 2 were nightmares even among level 155 monsters. On Garp's battlefield, the earth slowly cracked open. A giant stone golem climbed out from beneath the ground. Its body resembled nothing more than rough, weathered rock. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but cracks across its body revealed countless glowing mana crystals hidden inside. Its entire body was hollow, filled with violently unstable mana. Above its head floated its status. Level 155 elite boss. The Geode Titan, the walking bomb. Every step caused glowing crystal dust to spill from the cracks in its body. The surrounding monsters fled in terror. They knew, once this monster entered its meltdown state, Everything nearby would die. Several hundred kilometers away, another terrifying creature awakened. The mountains themselves began to move. No, one of the mountains stood up. Its body was covered in black volcanic glass. Every movement sounded like continents grinding together. Its enormous fists could crush entire mountain ranges. Above its head floated another status panel. Level 155 Elite Boss. The Obsidian Behemoth. Its obsidian hide absorbed the surrounding mana. Even the natural mana in the air disappeared around it. This monster possessed terrifying defensive abilities. Physical attacks shattered against its armor. Magic was simply swallowed. Every spell it absorbed became pure kinetic energy, making every punch even more devastating. Against ordinary opponents, it was nearly invincible. The Geode Titan stared at Garp. The walking bomb had met the hero of the Marines. The Obsidian Behemoth lowered its massive head. Its opponent was Sengoku, the Buddha. Far away, Roger noticed the newcomers. Ha ha ha, those two look troublesome. Whitebeard glanced over while exchanging blows with the stone minotaur. Gurararara, I almost feel sorry for them. Rayleigh smiled faintly. They chose the wrong battlefield. Ren calmly watched from the distance. They're unfortunate. They happened to appear on the day these old monsters decided to enjoy themselves. The Geode Titan moved first. Boom, its mountain-like fist crashed toward Garp. Instead of dodging, Garp laughed. Ha ha ha, you're huge. That means you'll make a better punching bag. His fist exploded with Ruo and Conqueror's Haki. Galaxy impact condensed around his arm. Boom. The collision blasted away entire mountain ranges. The Geode Titan staggered backward. Chunks of rock broke away from its body. The glowing mana crystals beneath its shell became visible. Crack, crack, more pieces of its rocky armor fell away. Brilliant blue mana leaked into the air. The monster's eyes instantly turned crimson. Its meltdown state had begun. Boom, its speed suddenly doubled. Every step released waves of unstable mana. The surrounding earth withered. The air itself became poisonous. Even the nearby monsters were vaporized by the leaking energy. The Geode Titan charged forward like a berserk beast. Garp's grin only widened. Ha ha ha, now you're getting interesting. Meanwhile, the Obsidian Behemoth swung its colossal fist at Sengoku. Boom, the impact flattened several mountains. Sengoku calmly blocked it with one crimson and black palm. The surrounding earth shattered beneath his feet. Yet he never moved an inch. The behemoth roared. It gathered enormous amounts of mana from the surroundings. The energy vanished into its obsidian body. Its next punch became even heavier. Sengoku's expression remained calm. So, you absorb energy. Interesting. The demonic halo behind him slowly rotated. His crimson eyes showed neither fear nor excitement, only curiosity. He had already begun analyzing the monster's ability. The Geode Titan, a living catastrophe that exploded with the force of a tactical weapon upon death. The Obsidian Behemoth, a fortress that rendered both magic and brute force nearly useless. For any army, for any kingdom, either one alone would be an absolute nightmare. Unfortunately, today, their opponents were not ordinary heroes. They were 7 madmen, who considered monsters of this caliber nothing more than worthy training partners. Chapter 225, The Wind Griffin and the Black-Winged Serpent. As the level 155 elite bosses continued to emerge, the remaining battlefields welcomed new rulers. Each one possessed powers capable of changing the landscape. On Gabon's battlefield, a fierce wind suddenly swept across the valley. The sky darkened, clouds spun into a massive vortex. A sharp cry echoed through the heavens. Scree, a gigantic creature descended from the storm. Its head and wings belonged to an eagle. Its body, that of a mighty lion. Every beat of its enormous wings created hurricanes powerful enough to uproot ancient forests. The air itself bent to its will. A blue status panel appeared. Level 155 Elite Boss. Storm Griffin, the Lord of the Sky. The Master of Wind. It spread its wings. Boom. Countless blades of compressed wind shot toward Gabon. Each one was sharp enough to slice through mountains. Gabon grinned. Ha ha ha, so you're the king of the skies. He rested both giant axes upon his shoulders. Good, I've always wanted to chop down the wind. The storm griffin screeched. Its wings beat once again. This time, entire tornadoes descended from the heavens. The battlefield transformed into a sea of storms. Without hesitation, Gabon charged directly into the tornadoes. Boom, his twin axes exploded with Ruo. Black-red lightning wrapped around both blades. One swing, a gigantic crescent slash erupted. The tornado split into two. The griffin's eyes narrowed. It immediately disappeared into the clouds. The hunt between the King of the Skies and the Pirate King's left-hand man had begun. Meanwhile, Ren quietly stood atop a shattered mountain. The battlefield around him had already been cut into countless canyons. Suddenly, an immense heat spread through the air. The ground began melting. The surrounding rocks glowed red. Then, a massive shadow descended from the sky. Hiss! A gigantic black serpent slowly circled above the battlefield. Its body stretched for several kilometers. 2 enormous dragon-like wings spread from its back. Its crimson scales reflected the flames surrounding it. Golden eyes stared directly at Ren. Above its head floated its status. Level 155 Elite Boss. Infernal Winged Serpent. It opened its mouth. A sphere of black flames rapidly condensed. Then, boom, a pillar of black fire descended upon Ren. The mountain beneath him disappeared beneath the inferno. The surrounding temperature instantly rose to terrifying levels. Moments later, the flames slowly dispersed. Ren remained standing exactly where he had been. Not a single corner of his clothes had been burned. His black blade was still resting calmly in his hand. He looked at the serpent. Then quietly spoke. Black flames. They're quite beautiful. The infernal winged serpent hissed angrily. It gathered even more fire within its mouth. This time, dozens of enormous fireballs filled the sky. Like a rain of meteors. They descended toward Ren. Ren slowly raised his sword. Advanced armament. Conqueror's Haki. Sword intent. All merged into a single slash. He swung. A thin black line flashed across the sky. The incoming sea of fire was neatly divided into two halves. The flames continued flying past him. Without touching his body, the serpent's pupils contracted. For the first time, it realized, the human before it, was far more dangerous than the flames it commanded. Ren slowly pointed his blade toward the sky. Come, let's see, whether your fire can survive my sword. With one powerful flap of its wings, the infernal winged serpent dove from the heavens. At the same moment, Ren vanished from the mountaintop. The sky itself became their battlefield. Chapter 226, the Seven Kings unleash their full power. The appearance of the level 155 elite bosses pushed every battlefield into a new stage. No one held back anymore. Each king had finally found an opponent worthy of using their true strength. On Whitebeard's battlefield, Murakumogiri clashed against the stone minotaur's colossal axe again and again. Clang, clang, clang. Every collision shook hundreds of kilometers. The minotaur manipulated countless stone pillars, trying to trap Whitebeard. Whitebeard merely laughed. Gurararara, you think stones can stop me? He slammed Murakumogiri downward. Quake power spread through every pillar. Boom. Thousands of stone pillars exploded into dust. The shockwave reached the minotaur itself. Its stone armor shattered even further. Roger faced the skeleton centaur knight. The monster's twin swords danced flawlessly. Each slash carried soul flames capable of burning spiritual energy. Roger smiled. So you're a swordsman too. Perfect. His black blade met both swords head-on. Clang. Black and crimson lightning erupted. The skeleton centaur was forced backward for the first time. Roger's grin widened. Let's see whose sword is sharper. Rayleigh continued chasing the world-devouring centipede. Or perhaps, the centipede was chasing him. Silver light and a black shadow crossed the battlefield thousands of times every second. Neither could land a decisive blow. Rayleigh quietly smiled. You've forced me to become serious. His observation haki expanded once again. The centipede's movements, which had once seemed impossible to follow, gradually became clearer. Far away, Garp and the geode titan had become walking disasters. The titan's rocky shell continued breaking apart. More unstable mana crystals became exposed. Its body glowed brighter and brighter. Every punch released waves of destructive mana. Boom! Another explosion shook the battlefield. Garp laughed louder. Ha ha ha, you're about to explode. I like that. Instead of avoiding the unstable monster, he rushed directly toward it. His fists collided with the titan again and again. Every punch shattered another layer of stone. The meltdown accelerated. Meanwhile, Sengoku calmly analyzed the obsidian behemoth. Every physical strike was absorbed by its obsidian hide. Every trace of natural mana nearby disappeared into its body. The monster became stronger with each passing second. Sengoku slowly nodded. So, that's how your ability works. The demonic halo behind him rotated faster. His crimson-black palm struck forward. Instead of using overwhelming force, he precisely attacked the joints hidden beneath the behemoth's armor. Crack! For the first time, a small fracture appeared. The obsidian behemoth roared in disbelief. Sengoku's eyes remained calm. No defense is truly absolute. High above the valley, the storm griffin ruled the skies. Hurricanes stretched across the heavens. Wind blades rained endlessly toward Gabon. Ha ha ha, good. Gabon leapt directly into the storm. His twin axes spun like giant windmills. Every swing split a tornado in half. Finally, he reached the griffin. Boom! One axe collided with its talons. The other, its beak. The entire sky exploded with violent winds. Ren's battlefield had completely moved into the heavens. The infernal winged serpent continuously breathed black fire. The sea of flames covered the sky. Ren walked through it as though strolling through falling snow. Every slash precisely divided the flames. None reached him. The serpent suddenly wrapped its gigantic body around him, trying to crush him. Ren calmly spoke. Too slow. His black blade disappeared. A moment later, dozens of black lines appeared across the serpent's scales. Then, boom, the coils exploded apart. The winged serpent cried out in pain as countless scales scattered across the sky. Across the valley of behemoths, the 7 battles had entered their climax. Mountains no longer resembled mountains. Forests had disappeared. Countless rivers had changed course. Even the clouds overhead had been torn apart by the endless shockwaves. The monsters watching from afar no longer dared approach. Even the remaining level 145 elite bosses had completely abandoned any thought of joining the battle. To them, these 7 humans were far more terrifying than any monster the valley had ever produced. And deep within the Valley of Behemoths, a pair of ancient golden eyes slowly opened. It had been sleeping for centuries, but the battle shaking the entire valley had finally awakened its true ruler. Chapter 227, Instantaneous Vibrations. Among the 7 battlefields, Whitebeard's battle had become the fiercest. Every exchange between him and the stone minotaur shook the entire valley. Murakumogiri, the minotaur's colossal stone axe, clashed wildly again and again. Clang, clang, clang. Black lightning exploded through the heavens. Quake power distorted space itself. Stone pillars continuously rose and shattered. The battlefield had long since become an endless wasteland. As the battle continued, Whitebeard's comprehension of earthquakes, vibrations, and the earth tremor fruit rose at an astonishing speed. Every collision, every vibration, every shockwave became another lesson. His understanding deepened with every breath. Gurararara, so that's how you do it. His eyes burned with excitement. Another fierce collision erupted. Boom! Murakumogiri and the giant stone axe locked together. Whitebeard suddenly twisted his body. With a powerful swing, he knocked the minotaur's axe out of its hands. The massive weapon spun through the sky before crashing dozens of kilometers away. At almost the same moment, Whitebeard also released Murakumogiri. His black naginata flew into the distance. Neither of them reached for their weapons. From this moment onward, it would be a battle of fists. Whitebeard stared at his hands. The tremor fruit was powerful, but there was still a flaw. Every attack required him to first gather vibration energy. Only then could he release it. That tiny delay was enough to affect the flow of battle. His gaze shifted toward the minotaur. Whenever it wanted, its arm became stone, its fist became stone, its legs became stone. There was no preparation, no delay. It simply happened. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes. My vibrations should be the same. The moment I desire them, they should already exist. No gathering, no preparation, just instant. The stone minotaur roared. It immediately charged. Whitebeard did the same. Boom. The two disappeared simultaneously. The battlefield exploded into a storm of afterimages. Flash, flash, flash. Neither used weapons anymore, only fists. The minotaur's stone fist smashed toward Whitebeard's head. Whitebeard's fist struck toward the minotaur's face. Boom. Both attacks landed. At the last instant, the minotaur transformed its face into solid stone. The damage was greatly reduced. At the same time, its stone fist crashed into Whitebeard's abdomen. Whitebeard's armament hockey instantly hardened. Boom. He slid backward several hundred meters, but remained standing. The minotaur's head snapped back before it steadied itself. Neither side had gained the advantage. Again, they vanished. Boom. Whitebeard's fist struck the minotaur's shoulder. No vibration. Again. A punch. Still nothing. Again. 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 Each collision echoed like thunder. Whitebeard wasn't trying to overpower the minotaur anymore. He was experimenting. Every punch, he tried to release the vibration. At the exact instant his fist made contact. Not before, not after. Exactly. At the moment of impact. The minotaur noticed the change. It became even more aggressive. Stone fists, stone knees, stone elbows. Every part of its body transformed instantly. Its control over stone was completely natural. Whitebeard watched every movement closely. His own enlightenment climbed rapidly. So that's it. It isn't about gathering power. It's about making the power obey my will. Boom. Another punch landed. This time, a faint ripple appeared. The instant Whitebeard's fist touched the minotaur's chest. The vibration was weak, almost insignificant, but it had appeared without any visible gathering of power. Whitebeard's eyes lit up. A wide grin spread across his face. Gurararara, I've found the right path. The stone minotaur instinctively stepped back. For the first time since the battle had begun, it felt danger, not from Whitebeard's strength, but from the terrifying speed at which this human was evolving in the middle of battle. Chapter 228, Internal Vibrations. Gurararara. Whitebeard's laughter echoed throughout the valley. The excitement in his eyes only grew stronger. He had found the right direction. Now, he only needed to perfect it. Boom. Whitebeard charged once more. His fist collided with the minotaur's stone arm. Boom. Another punch. Boom. Another collision. The two monsters exchanged blows without pause. Their fists collided hundreds of times. Then thousands. The surrounding mountains collapsed one after another. The battlefield had long since become a boundless crater. Neither of them cared. They simply continued throwing punch after punch. The stone minotaur became increasingly furious. Its stone fists rained down like a storm. Each strike possessed enough power to shatter mountains. Whitebeard answered with his own fists. His ruo, his conqueror's hockey, and his physical strength reached their limits. Gurararara. Again. Boom. Another collision. Again. 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 Thousands of punches flashed across the battlefield. The two figures became nothing more than blurs. With every collision, Whitebeard's understanding of vibrations deepened. At first, he struggled to release the quake the instant his fist landed. Now, he could already do it instinctively. But something still felt wrong. Every vibration still erupted from the outside of the Minotaur's body. A large portion of the power escaped into the surroundings. The earth cracked, the air shattered, the mountains collapsed. But the enemy itself wasn't receiving the full force. Whitebeard frowned. No, this is still wrong. Another punch landed. Boom. The shockwave scattered across the battlefield. The Minotaur was pushed back several hundred meters. Whitebeard remained standing, deep in thought. The vibration. It shouldn't appear outside. It should. His eyes suddenly widened. It should be born inside the target. His gaze locked onto the stone Minotaur. The monster's stone transformation didn't cover the air around its body. It directly transformed the part it wanted. Its fist, its head, its chest. The ability activated exactly where it was needed. Whitebeard suddenly laughed loudly. Gurararara. So that's the answer. My quake shouldn't travel into the target. It should appear directly inside the target. The stone Minotaur roared and charged. Whitebeard welcomed it with a grin. Their fists met once more. Boom. This time, Whitebeard didn't try to send vibrations through his fist. Instead, the moment his knuckles touched the Minotaur's chest, he imagined the vibration being born inside its body, not outside. Inside, a tiny tremor suddenly appeared beneath the monster's stone armor. The Minotaur's body shook violently. Crack. A small fracture appeared across its chest. The vibration had bypassed part of its external defense. Whitebeard's eyes shone brilliantly. It worked. Although the effect was still weak, he had found the correct path. From then on, Whitebeard completely abandoned ordinary attacks. Every punch, every elbow, every shoulder strike, focused on one thing, creating the vibration, directly within the Minotaur's body. Again, thousands of blows continued to rain down. Each attempt became more precise than the last. Each failure brought another realization. His mastery over the tremor fruit climbed at a terrifying speed. The stone Minotaur gradually became uneasy. Its stone armor, which had been nearly invincible, was beginning to crack. From the inside. Chapter 230, Black Bones. On Garp's battlefield, the geode titan had completely entered its meltdown state. Its rocky shell had almost entirely fallen away. Brilliant mana crystals glowed beneath its body. Every movement leaked unstable mana into the surroundings. The battlefield had become a forbidden zone. Constant explosions echoed through the air. Even the remaining monsters dared not approach. Yet, Garp charged straight into the center of the explosions. Ha ha ha, so this is your limit. Then let me see mine. Boom. His fist collided with the titan's crystal-covered arm. The impact shook the heavens. The geode titan staggered backward. Garp was also forced back several hundred meters. He glanced at his own arm. His muscles, his skin, his organs, had all become incredibly powerful over the years. Only one part remained, his bones. Ever since learning about permanent black blades, a single thought had lingered in his mind. If swords can become permanently black, why can't bones? He grinned. Ha ha ha, let's find out. Ruo surged through his body. Conqueror's haki followed. Instead of coating his fists, he forced every trace of haki deep into his skeleton, his arm bones, his ribs, his spine, his legs. Every bone became flooded with haki. But the haki refused to remain. It continuously leaked back into his muscles and skin, like trying to fill a cracked container. Garp frowned. So that's the problem. My bones can't hold enough haki. Boom. The geode titan appeared before him once again. Its gigantic crystal fist descended. Garp answered with a grin. Galaxy impact. A swirling sphere of black-red energy condensed around his fist. Boom. The collision obliterated everything nearby. The geode titan's body cracked even further. The violent impact also compressed the haki within Garp's arm. For a brief instant, his arm bone turned pitch black. Then, the color faded as the haki leaked away once more. Garp's eyes lit up. It works. The impact can force the haki deeper. Ha ha ha. He became even crazier. Instead of retreating, he rushed directly toward the titan. Galaxy divide. His fist tore through the air. A gigantic shockwave split the battlefield in two. Boom. The geode titan was blasted backward. Before it could recover, Garp had already arrived. Galaxy breaker. Both fists crashed into the titan's chest. Crack. The crystal-covered body shattered further. The resulting recoil forced enormous pressure back into Garp's own skeleton. Again, his bones briefly turned black. Again, the haki leaked away. But the duration had become slightly longer. Ha ha ha. Again, he punched. Again. Each collision compressed more haki into his bones. Every violent impact acted like a hammer, driving the haki deeper into his skeleton. The leaking gradually slowed, only by the smallest amount. But it was enough. The geode titan roared. Its unstable mana reached its limit. Its body became brighter and brighter. The final explosion was approaching. Garp ignored the danger completely. He welcomed every punch from the Titan. Each impact became another hammer. Another chance to temper his skeleton. He continuously circulated his haki, stuffing it into his bones over and over again. Even as it leaked, he simply forced more inside. His body had become a forge. The Geode Titan had unknowingly become his blacksmith. Deep within his right fist, one finger bone finally stopped leaking. It remained completely coated in pitch-black haki. A permanent black sheen appeared upon it. Only one bone, among the hundreds in his body. But Garp immediately sensed the difference. He slowly clenched his fist. A grin spread across his face. Ha ha ha. So, this is the path to black bones. Across from him, the Geode Titan instinctively trembled. It had the strange feeling that the smiling old man before it was becoming something far more terrifying than the living bomb itself. Chapter 231, Kings of Speed and Kings of Conquerors. On Roger's battlefield, the duel between two swordsmen had reached its peak. Clang! Ace collided with the skeleton centaur knight's twin swords. A violent shockwave erupted. The giant centaur stood over 30 meters tall. Roger was nothing more than a tiny figure before it. The difference in size was overwhelming. Yet, the battle remained perfectly even. Every slash from the giant monster was met head-on by Roger. Every collision forced both combatants back. Neither could gain the advantage. The skeleton centaur roared. Its two swords descended like falling mountains. Roger laughed. Ha ha ha, so what if you're bigger? My sword has never cared about size. Clang! Ace met both swords simultaneously. The gigantic impact shook the surrounding mountains. The centaur's immense strength was enough to split the earth. Roger answered with nothing but his own sword. And his overwhelming haki. Black and crimson lightning exploded around Roger's body. His conqueror's haki had become increasingly terrifying during this battle. It was no longer merely coating his blade. It had become almost tangible. The clouds above the battlefield darkened. The sky trembled. Then, boom, a bolt of crimson-black lightning descended from the heavens. It struck directly beside Roger. Another followed. Then another. The battlefield was engulfed in an endless storm. To an outsider, it looked as though heaven itself was calling down divine punishment. Only Roger understood the truth. Those weren't natural bolts of lightning. They were his own conqueror's haki, so condensed, so overwhelming, that it had manifested as heavenly thunder. Roger looked toward the dark sky and laughed. Ha ha ha, looks like even the heavens want to join our fight. The skeleton centaur charged once more. Roger answered with a single step. The two swordsmen vanished. Only endless explosions echoed across the battlefield. Meanwhile, on Rayleigh's battlefield, the battle had become almost impossible to see. The world-devouring centipede raced across the valley. Its body stretched for dozens of kilometers. Yet, its enormous size never affected its speed. Boom! The ground exploded behind it. A silver flash chased after the monster. Rayleigh's speed had increased once again. The two streaks of light crossed the battlefield continuously. Neither touched the ground for long. They ran across cliffs, across mountains, across rivers, even along the sides of vertical rock walls. Their speed had surpassed the speed of sound several times over. Every time they changed direction, a violent sonic boom echoed throughout the valley. Boom, boom, boom. Only rings of compressed air remained where they had passed. The mountains they crossed split apart seconds later. Trees were uprooted by the violent pressure. The air itself screamed. The giant centipede suddenly twisted its enormous body. Its countless legs struck toward Rayleigh simultaneously. Rayleigh disappeared. A silver line flashed past the monster's head. Shing! One of its massive armored segments was cleanly sliced apart. The centipede screeched. Without slowing down, it continued pursuing Rayleigh. Rayleigh smiled faintly. Faster. I need to become even faster. His observation haki expanded to its limit. Every movement, every twitch of the monster's countless legs, every shift in the surrounding air, was reflected perfectly in his mind. His body instinctively adjusted. His speed increased once more. The silver streak became even thinner, even sharper. The battle was no longer one of strength, nor swordsmanship. It had become a contest to determine which was truly the fastest being on the battlefield. Chapter 232, The Sky Hunters. On Gabon's battlefield, the sky had become a world of storms. The storm griffin ruled the heavens. Every beat of its wings created hurricanes powerful enough to erase mountains. Wind blades, tornadoes, compressed air bullets, attacked from every direction. Yet, Gabon only laughed. Ha ha ha, so this is the power of the wind. He gripped his twin axes tightly. Ruo flowed endlessly across their edges. Black and crimson lightning wrapped around both weapons. Then, he swung. Shing! A gigantic crescent slash tore through the sky. The approaching hurricane split neatly into two. Another swing. Another tornado disappeared. A third. A fourth. Every slash, coated with advanced armament haki and conqueror's haki, didn't merely cut the air. It cut the wind itself. The griffin screeched in disbelief. Its greatest weapon was being destroyed before reaching its target. Gabon continued laughing. Ha ha ha, if the wind gets in my way, I'll simply chop it apart. His twin axes danced wildly. Countless flying slashes crossed the heavens. The entire sky became filled with black and crimson crescents traveling in every direction. Even the clouds above were cut into countless pieces. Far above the Valley of Behemoths, Ren's battle had long since left the mountains behind. The battle was now taking place in the highest heavens. The infernal winged serpent circled endlessly through the clouds. Its enormous wings stirred oceans of black flames. Ren floated calmly in the sky. His black blade continuously flashed. Shing, another slash, shing, another. Hundreds, then thousands, of black sword waves crossed the heavens. The sky itself had been carved apart. Space around the battlefield was covered in countless scars. Each slash left behind a black crack that slowly healed over time. The very fabric of the world struggled to repair the damage caused by Ren's sword. Yet, not a single slash touched the serpent. The infernal winged serpent's control over the skies was simply unbelievable. Its speed in the air was several times greater than it had been on the ground. Its gigantic body twisted at unimaginable angles. Every movement completely defied common sense. Whenever Ren believed his blade would connect, the serpent narrowly slipped away. Sometimes by a few centimeters. Sometimes by only the width of a scale. Every dodge was perfect. Immediately afterward, the serpent opened its jaws. Boom! A torrent of black flames swallowed the sky. Ren calmly stepped through the inferno. Without stopping, he continued attacking. This serpent, Ren narrowed his eyes. It doesn't merely move quickly. It senses danger before it arrives. His observation hockey spread even further. Still, the serpent continued escaping every fatal strike. It was unbelievably sensitive to killing intent. The instant true danger appeared, its body reacted instinctively. Ren suddenly extended his hand. The power of the length fruit activated. The distance between himself and the serpent instantly shortened. In a single step, he appeared directly before its head. His black blade descended. Shing! The serpent twisted its neck at an impossible angle. The blade barely missed. Only a few black scales drifted through the air. The serpent immediately retreated. Its golden eyes became even more vigilant. Ren silently watched it. So even manipulating distance isn't enough. This creature is far too slippery. The serpent never stayed in one place. Never followed a predictable path. Every movement was pure instinct. Like flowing water. Like drifting smoke. Impossible to grasp. Ren could feel it. If he unleashed the full power of his other devil fruit, he could cover an enormous area with destruction. The serpent would have nowhere to escape. But he didn't. This battle was training, not extermination. He wanted to defeat the serpent with his sword, not with overwhelming area attacks. Ren slowly raised his black blade once more. A faint smile appeared on his face. Interesting. If I can't catch you, then I'll simply become faster. High above the clouds, one black figure and one winged serpent vanished once again. Only countless scars in the sky and slowly healing space remained as proof that their battle had ever taken place. Chapter 234, Chaos Unleashed. The arrival of the 10 additional level 155 elite bosses completely overturned the battlefield. What had once been 7 one-on-one duels had become total chaos. The monsters no longer cared about honor, nor did they continue fighting their original opponents. They attacked together, like a coordinated army. Boom! The stone minotaur's axe descended toward Whitebeard. At the same instant, another elite boss attacked from behind. A third launched a barrage of earth spikes. Whitebeard blocked one attack, dodged another, and punched the third away. Yet before he could recover, the stone minotaur's fist had already arrived. Boom! Whitebeard was blasted backward. Gurararara. So you've finally learned teamwork. Roger wasn't much better. The skeleton centaur relentlessly pressured him from the front. Another elite boss continuously launched long-range attacks. A third attempted to strike whenever Roger's attention shifted. Clang, clang, clang. Roger's black blade flashed without pause. Ha ha ha. Now this is getting interesting. On Garp's battlefield, the geode titan charged head-on. Another monster attacked from the sky. A third emerged from beneath the ground. Garp simply laughed. Ha ha ha. 3 at once. I'll just punch all 3. Galaxy Impact. Galaxy Divide. Galaxy Breaker. One devastating technique after another erupted. The battlefield exploded continuously. Sengoku's 4 crimson arms became a blur. Every palm strike shook the heavens. Every punch shattered mountains. Yet, the pressure continued increasing. The monsters had begun coordinating their attacks. Whenever one retreated, another immediately filled the gap. Rayleigh's battlefield had become even more absurd. The world-devouring centipede raced around him at unbelievable speed. Now, another flying elite boss joined the pursuit. Silver light, black shadows, and enormous monsters crossed the battlefield so quickly that only countless sonic booms remained behind. Gaban spun his twin axes wildly. Flying slashes filled the sky. But before one monster fell, another immediately replaced it. The endless assault gave him almost no opportunity to breathe. Ha ha ha, this is more like a real battle. High above the clouds, even Ren found himself surrounded. The infernal winged serpent attacked from the front. Another winged elite boss struck from above. A third fired long-range attacks from below. His black blade flashed continuously. Every slash split the heavens. Yet, there were simply too many enemies. The pressure upon the Seven Kings rose to an entirely different level. No one could afford to focus on a single opponent anymore. The battlefield had become too chaotic. Without saying a single word, the seven instinctively reached the same conclusion. Forget fixed opponents. Forget one-on-one battles. Attack whichever monster appeared before them. Boom! Whitebeard punched away the stone minotaur. Then immediately grabbed another charging elite boss by its neck. Roger cut through one monster's attack, before turning to slash another. Garp punched a flying monster into the geode titan. Sengoku's giant palms crushed two different monsters simultaneously. Rayleigh disappeared from one battlefield, only to reappear behind another elite boss. Gabon's twin axes spun in every direction, sending black and crimson slashes across the valley. Ren calmly cut apart every attack that entered his range, regardless of which monster had launched it. The battlefield had descended into complete chaos. No formations, no fixed enemies, no order, only destruction, only instinct, only the endless clash between seven kings and an army of monsters. Chapter 235, an unexpected teamwork. The battlefield had completely lost all order. The seven kings fought wherever an enemy appeared. The elite bosses attacked from every direction. The Valley of Behemoths had become one enormous battlefield. Among them, Garp's and Roger's battlefields happened to be the closest, separated by only a few kilometers. Their shockwaves constantly overlapped. Sometimes, the force of one battle would accidentally throw monsters into the other's battlefield. Boom! Garp landed a full-powered galaxy impact. The geode titan crossed its arms to block. Even so, the tremendous shockwave launched another level 155 elite boss into the air. The monster spun uncontrollably, flying directly toward Roger. Roger looked up. Ha ha ha, thanks for the delivery. Shing! Ace flashed once. The unfortunate elite boss was cut several times before it could even stabilize itself. Roger didn't bother finishing it. Instead, he planted one foot against its chest. Go back. Boom! With a powerful kick, the gigantic monster shot back toward Garp like a cannonball. Several kilometers away, Garp saw the incoming figure. Ha ha ha, my turn. Without the slightest hesitation, he stepped forward. His fist ignited with Ruo and Conqueror's Haki. Galaxy Breaker. Boom! His punch landed squarely on the monster's face. The elite boss disappeared into the horizon, traveling even faster than before. Roger looked toward Garp. Ha ha ha, nice one. Garp laughed just as loudly. Ha ha ha, send me another. Before Roger could answer, another monster crashed into his battlefield. Roger casually sidestepped. The skeleton centaur's sword struck the newcomer instead. Roger immediately seized the opportunity. Shing! Ace carved a deep wound across both monsters. Then, another kick. Boom! Both elite bosses flew toward Garp together. Garp's eyes lit up. Even better. His fists blurred. Boom! Boom! Two consecutive punches exploded through the air. The monsters were launched in opposite directions. One crashed into Whitebeard's battlefield. The other smashed straight through Sengoku's. Whitebeard looked at the flying monster. Garararara, so you're delivering them to me now. He welcomed it with a quake-coated punch. Sengoku simply raised one of his four fists. Boom! The second monster was sent flying once again. Within moments, the battlefield became even more ridiculous. Elite bosses continuously flew through the sky. Roger kicked them. Garp punched them. Whitebeard batted them away. Sengoku swatted them aside. They ricocheted from one battlefield to another. Like giant balls in a game, the once proud rulers of the Valley of Behemoths had unknowingly become toys, being tossed around by seven laughing old monsters. Far above the battlefield, Ren glanced downward. A faint smile appeared on his face. They're actually having fun. Even the infernal winged serpent paused for a brief moment, as if questioning whether the humans before it were truly sane. Chapter 237, the first Haki core detonation. Without another word, the battlefield changed. Roger, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Gabon, and Ren stopped trying to kill their opponents. Instead, they unleashed everything they had to restrain them. Sword slashes, quake waves, flying axe strikes, Conqueror's Haki. Every attack was used for one purpose: drive the monsters toward Garp and Sengoku. The 17 level 155 elite bosses roared furiously. Some charged forward, others attempted to escape, but under the combined pressure of 5 monsters among men, they had no choice but to gather. Meanwhile, Garp and Sengoku stood several kilometers apart. Neither of them moved. Their entire focus rested on the tiny object floating above their palms. A sphere, no larger than a marble. Jet black, covered in crimson lightning. The surrounding space continuously distorted around it. Even the air refused to approach. The Haki within had been compressed to an unbelievable degree. Every second, the cores became more unstable. Tiny cracks of black and red lightning escaped from their surfaces. Roger's smile disappeared. Quote dot dot dot. They're about to lose control. Sengoku slowly opened his eyes. Now, at the exact same moment, Garp grinned. Ha ha ha, let's see what this thing can do. Both of them swung their arms. Whoosh, the two tiny hockey cores shot toward the center of the battlefield. The instant they left their creator's hands, their stability collapsed. The compressed hockey began expanding violently. Before they even reached the monsters, both spheres had already become unstable masses of destructive energy. The moment they touched the ground, time itself seemed to freeze. Then, boom, a black and crimson sphere erupted outward. In less than a heartbeat, each hockey core expanded into a gigantic sphere nearly 10 kilometers in diameter. Everything inside simply ceased to exist. The 17 elite bosses vanished. No screams, no blood, no remains. Their bodies, their weapons, even the mana surrounding them, were completely erased. The ground within the blast radius disappeared as if it had never existed. An instant later, the true destruction arrived. Boom, the earth for hundreds of kilometers collapsed. Gigantic cracks spread in every direction. Entire mountain ranges sank into the abyss. The blast wave continued expanding. Hundreds of kilometers, then thousands. The atmosphere twisted violently. Countless tornadoes were born from the pressure difference. The clouds were blown away. The sky itself seemed to split apart. Forests vanished. Rivers changed course. New canyons formed where none had existed before. The landscape across thousands of kilometers was permanently rewritten. Even though they had retreated as fast as possible, none of the 7 escaped. The shockwave caught them all. Roger stabbed Ace into the ground. Brace yourselves. Whitebeard crossed his arms. Gurararara. So this is the power of that technique. Garp laughed even as he was blown backward. Ha ha ha, not bad. Sengoku planted all 4 feet firmly into the earth. His giant crimson body slid dozens of kilometers before finally stopping. Rayleigh disappeared in flashes of light, trying to outrun the blast. But the shockwave overtook him anyway. Gaban buried both axes into the ground, carving 2 enormous trenches as he was pushed backward. High above the battlefield, Ren crossed his sword before him. Even he was forced back by the overwhelming force. For several long seconds, nothing could be heard, only the endless roar of destruction. When the dust finally began to settle, the Valley of Behemoths no longer existed. Chapter 238, The King of the Valley. Silence. An absolute silence blanketed the battlefield. The endless roars of the elite bosses were gone. The Valley of Behemoths had vanished. In its place, a colossal crater stretched beyond the horizon. The mountains had disappeared. The forests were gone. Even the rivers had been erased from existence. Only endless dust and shattered earth remained. Roger slowly stood up. His clothes were torn. His body was covered in scratches. He looked at the crater and whistled. I'll never laugh at Garp again for making oversized attacks. Garp burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, so this is the hockey core. It feels amazing. He looked at his fist. I only used 1. I wonder what happens if I use 10. Ren immediately replied. You die. Garp blinked. Oh. Whitebeard stared at the crater. Gurararara. I finally understand. This technique. It doesn't release hockey. It destroys the balance of compressed hockey. Ren nodded. Exactly. The explosion isn't from releasing power. It's from compressed hockey becoming unstable. The more compressed it is, the more violent the collapse. Sengoku slowly dispersed the remaining hockey around his hands. I only compressed enough for a demonstration. If we continue improving this technique, it may become our strongest finishing move. Everyone silently agreed. Then, the ground trembled. Once, twice, then again. Boom, boom, boom. Each heartbeat echoed through the ruined landscape. The sound seemed to come from beneath the earth itself. Ren's expression became serious. It survived. Everyone's smiles disappeared. Far below the gigantic crater, a single enormous crack slowly spread. Dark crimson light leaked from its depths. An aura, far more terrifying than any elite boss, rose into the heavens. The pressure alone caused the atmosphere to distort. Even Roger instinctively tightened his grip on Ace. Whitebeard's smile faded. Garp stopped laughing. Sengoku's crimson eyes narrowed. Rayleigh unconsciously released his conqueror's hockey. Even the usually carefree Gaban gripped his twin axes tightly. Crack. The earth exploded. A gigantic claw, larger than an entire mountain, slowly emerged from beneath the crater. Then another. The creature effortlessly pulled itself from the depths. Its body was so enormous that its head pierced the clouds before its entire form became visible. Black scales, crimson patterns flowing across its body like rivers of magma. 4 colossal wings, 2 spiraling horns, eyes that burned like miniature suns. Every breath it took created hurricanes. Every movement caused earthquakes. Its mere existence made the surviving monsters kneel in terror. A translucent panel appeared before the 7. World boss identified. Name, King of the Valley. Level, status, Ancient Ruler. Danger level, catastrophic. Warning, unable to estimate combat strength. Roger slowly smiled. Quote dot dot dot. Now, this looks like a proper final boss. Whitebeard rested Murakumogiri on his shoulder. Gurararara. I was wondering who ruled this place. Garp cracked his neck. Ha ha ha. Good. I was worried we'd cleared the dungeon already. Ren looked at the ancient creature. Its aura was several times greater than every elite boss they had faced combined. He slowly drew his sword. The real battle starts now. Chapter 239, The Unexpected Outcome. The King of the Valley towered above the ruined world. Its massive body eclipsed the sun. Its mere presence distorted the atmosphere. The pressure radiating from it was unlike anything the Seven had ever experienced. No one moved. No one dared attack first. Even Garp and Roger, who usually rushed headfirst into battle, instinctively became cautious. A level 175 world boss was an existence completely different from a level 155 elite boss. Then, something unexpected happened. The King of the Valley's body suddenly trembled. Its crimson eyes widened. Cough. A strange, muffled sound escaped its enormous mouth. The next moment, cough, boom, a torrent of dark crimson blood burst from its mouth. It poured down like a waterfall from the sky. Every drop was as large as a lake. The blood crashed onto the earth below, creating enormous craters and flooding the ruined valley. The colossal beast staggered. Its wings drooped. Its breathing became ragged. Another mouthful of blood erupted from its mouth. Cough, boom. The entire body of the ancient ruler swayed as if it could collapse at any moment. Roger blinked. Did Garp's punch somehow reach underground? Garp immediately shouted back. Don't blame me. I only punched what I could see. Whitebeard stroked his chin. Gurararara. I don't think this has anything to do with us. Suddenly, a familiar translucent panel flickered before the Seven. The information rapidly changed. World boss identified. Name, King of the Valley. Level, 175. Status, Ancient Ruler. Danger level, catastrophic. Description, while sleeping, an unknown devastating attack landed directly on the world boss. It suffered catastrophic internal injuries and is now on the verge of death. Silence. Absolute silence. Roger slowly looked toward Garp. Then toward Sengoku. Then back at the gigantic crater left behind by the twin hockey core explosions. So, we accidentally bombed the poor thing while it was sleeping. Rayleigh couldn't help but smile. It appears, it woke up only to discover it was already dying. Whitebeard burst into booming laughter. Gurararara. So all that terrifying pressure was just a dying beast trying to stand. Even Sengoku's usually calm expression twitched slightly. So our attack reached all the way into its underground nest. Ren looked at the status panel without speaking. Then his gaze shifted toward the endless crater created by the two hockey core detonations. The explosions had erased everything within 10 kilometers, collapsed the earth for hundreds of kilometers, and sent their destructive force thousands of kilometers across the land. If the King of the Valley had been sleeping directly beneath the battlefield, the unstable hockey explosions had likely pierced deep into its underground chamber. The world boss had unknowingly taken the full force of the attack. The King of the Valley raised its head once more. Its eyes locked onto the Seven humans. Not with the arrogance of a king, but with the fury of a creature whose final moments had been stolen. A deafening roar echoed across the shattered continent. ROOOOOOOOOAAAARRRRR. Even on the brink of death, a level 175 world boss was still a level 175 world boss. Chapter 240, Don't Make It Angrier. The King of the Valley's furious roar echoed across the shattered continent. ROOOOOOOOAAARRRRR. The atmosphere trembled. The earth continued collapsing beneath its enormous body. Despite being on the verge of death, its aura remained terrifying enough to make even the surviving monsters flee in panic. The Seven silently observed the dying world boss. No one underestimated it. A wounded beast was often the most dangerous. Then, Garp scratched the back of his head. He looked at the coughing world boss. Then at Ren. Finally, he asked with complete seriousness. Is it asking for another hockey core? Silence. Roger slowly lowered Ace. Rayleigh covered his face. Whitebeard's shoulders trembled as he struggled not to laugh. Even Sengoku closed his eyes. Only Gabon looked genuinely curious. That's actually a fair question. Ren's eyelids twitched. He slowly turned toward Garp. Grandpa. Garp blinked. What? Ren pointed at the world boss, which was glaring at them with bloodshot eyes. Please, stop talking. Garp looked confused. Why? Ren sighed. I'm afraid the monster will die from rage before we even fight it. For a brief moment, the battlefield fell completely silent. Then, yahahaha. Roger was the first to burst into uncontrollable laughter. Whitebeard followed. Gurararara. Ha ha ha. That old fool might actually do it. Even Rayleigh couldn't hold back a smile. Sengoku pinched the bridge of his nose. I've known him for decades. And somehow he's still capable of embarrassing me. As if it understood every word. The King of the Valley turned its blazing eyes toward Garp. Its already unstable aura exploded violently. The veins across its enormous body bulged. It coughed another torrent of blood. Cough. Boom. The crimson waterfall crashed onto the ruined earth. Its breathing became even more ragged. Roger pointed at the world boss and laughed. Ha ha ha, Ren might be right, you've actually made it angrier. Garp crossed his arms. I was only asking a question. Then he looked back at the world boss and shouted. If one isn't enough, I can make another. The king of the valley's pupils contracted. Its body shook violently. Another mouthful of blood erupted from its jaws. Cough. Boom. Ren covered his forehead with one hand. Please, nobody let Grandpa negotiate with enemies ever again, even in the face of a dying level 175 world boss. The tension that had gripped the battlefield moments before was shattered by the ridiculous exchange. But beneath the laughter, every one of the 7 quietly tightened their grip on their weapons. Because they all knew, a cornered king would unleash its final strike.